All right, welcome everyone. Good afternoon. I call to order this special meeting of the Scottsdale Unified School District Governing Board. The date is Tuesday, September 25th, 2018. I'm hearing kind of an echo, but the time is 1:36. Please stand for the, oh wait, I'm sorry. We're going to follow the agenda here. Usually it's the pledge first, but I'm going to have a roll call starting from my far right. Sorry.
Sure.
I know.
Sandy Kravitz.
Alison Beckham.
Pam Kirby. Kim Hartman.
Barbara Perleberg. All board members are present, and we do have a quorum. Now please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, so we will get started right away. Our first information discussion item 3A, discussion regarding superintendent search with McPherson and Jacobson, superintendent search consultants. This will be the board's first meeting with the search consultants, and discussion will include establishment of timelines, target dates for the selection process, and selection criteria and advertising venues. Dr. Krierkard, would you like to introduce our guest?
Yes, thank you, President Perleberg, members of the board. This discussion item is very important to us and to the community because, as you know, there's been some misunderstandings about our meeting today. Our meeting today is for an open discussion about the timeline and the process for searching for superintendent for the district. So I'm looking forward to this open discussion, frank discussion, and especially because the firm that you have selected is one that has a great history in transparency and openness and heavy community involvement in appropriate ways for this search. So with that, I would like to introduce one of the partners. Is that right?
I'm the owner.
The owner. He is now the owner, Mr. Tom Jacobson. Welcome, Mr. Jacobson.
Thank you very much, and thank you for inviting me here. I want to start with board members. If you'll introduce yourself to me, how long you've been on the board, and what you do in real life besides being a full-time board member. If we start with the president.
Barbara Perleberg. I've been on the board 6 years now, and been at home most of that time while my kids were growing up, and now they're both at ASU, so I'll be looking for something exciting to do soon.
Yeah, I'll raise your shoulders.
Yes, exactly.
Good afternoon, Mr. Jacobson. I am Kim Hartman. I've been on the board. This is my 4th year of a 4-year term, and I am a management consultant by day,
Right.
except when I'm here.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Pam Kirby. I'm in my 8th and final year as a board member. Similar to President Perleberg, I was a full-time mom raising children, but as of about 4 weeks ago, I'm an empty nester now. So I am looking forward to my next pursuit.
All right, thank you.
Hello, I'm Alison Beckham. I have been on the board for about 1.5 years, and I am also have been a stay-at-home mom and became an empty nester about 6 weeks ago. And also I'm looking forward to hopefully getting back into the professional world.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, I'm Sandy Kravitz. I've been on the board since I believe it's January of 2017. I'm a professional volunteer, and I also have a small business dealing with merchant services.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. The rest of you at the table, just tell me what you do for the district and how long you've been with the district. Let's start with Steve.
Steve Nance, Assistant Superintendent, Educational Services. Been in the district a total of 18 years, 15 years, and I was gone for a while. I've been back for 3.
Sandra Como, I'm Administrative Assistant to the Governing Board and to the Superintendent. I've been with the district 19 years and always in this position.
All right.
John Krierkard, Acting Superintendent. I've been with the district this time since May 14th of this year, and have a contract lasting until June 30th or until a new superintendent is able to start, if that's prior to that date. I was previously with the district for 23 years in various administrative roles.
Thanks.
I'm Michelle Marshall. I'm the general counsel for the district, and I've been here since 2008.
All right, good afternoon. I'm Melissa Sakos. I'm the assistant superintendent of secondary schools, and I believe this is going on my 19th year here in SUSD.
Evie Hagigat, assistant superintendent for elementary, and I just started in July.
All right.
Jed Bowman, assistant superintendent for human resources, and I also started in July.
Wow. My name's Tom excuse me, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
I was done.
Oh. My name's Tom Jacobson. My background, I was a superintendent for 16 years in Minnesota and Colorado. And as I explained to some of the folks before, 27 years ago, I was teaching adjunct professor at Western State College. Thought, I'm really liking this. And so I left the superintendency. I'm a full-time professor at the University of Nebraska. I teach people that are going to become principals and superintendents. My area of expertise is human resource management, which is what this job is, or this business is. So I do what I teach, and I teach what I do as I do that. And I find that being out in the field gives me added insights as to what's going on out there now, and there certainly have been a number of changes in 27 years since I've left the profession. As was mentioned, I just want to highlight again, because you hired us off a proposal. Thank you so much for doing that, but a couple of things I just want to highlight about our firm. 27th year, over 750 searches. We have 120 consultants across the United States, including a number in Arizona. I think we've done about 7 or 8 searches in your state. Dysart, Peoria, Sunnyside, Kyrene, and I'm forgetting the rest, but we do have a presence here to do that. When we decided to become a national firm, we took a look at the other national firms at that time and said, what will set us apart? We've hung our hat on transparency. We believe in a very transparent, open process. We believe the public business should be done in public. And so as we're going through this process, we'll be recommending that. I want you to know this is your search. You own it. We're here to advise you along the way, but if there's some things that you want to know why we're recommending it, or if you want to do it a little differently, we're here to accommodate you as we do that. We're going to be doing all the legwork for you, all the background work. We want you as a board to focus on the most important thing, and that's meeting candidates and interviewing candidates. And then we hope to have some very good candidates in front of you. Our goal is that after you've interviewed the candidates, you're looking at each other and said, wow, any one of these people would be a good superintendent for us. And that's what we're striving for you to do that. In front of you, I've put our agenda. I know that you have your own agenda. But basically, this is the organizational meeting. We're just getting everything set up this afternoon. We're going to talk about establishing a calendar, and I've got a template for a calendar. That's all it is a template with some recommended dates that we certainly can work on. We're going to talk about advertising venues. Included in our fee, it goes on our website, which gets between 200,000 and 300,000 hits a month because we're a national firm. It goes on LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook. I have no clue how it gets on there, but my staff does. It gets sent out to all the state school board associations and all the state administrator associations. But there's a couple that I'll be recommending when we get to that part that we can't control our fees, so it's not included in our fee, but you can make the decision if you want to do those or not. We're going to be talking about who you want us to meet with as stakeholder groups, who those individuals are. And I'll give you a list of what we normally do, and then we'll want you to give me some other. Then the most important thing at the end, we're going to take you through a process where you as a board are going to identify your top 4, 5, 6 areas that you want your new superintendent to be proficient in. And then we'll end up with any questions from there. But hopefully we'll get everything organized. So I'm going to start with the calendar. I have a template here. I don't know if I have enough for everybody, so.
And we'll do board members first, and then if there's extras.
Looks like there was a typo there. You can share.
And as we work through the calendar, we'll probably get everything done except the selection criteria.
Send one back this way.
Oh, hold on.
Send one to John.
I have suggested dates, and this is a proposed planning calendar. The most important thing is to get the interview dates on your calendars, because that's the most important that you're going to be involved with. Obviously, this meeting is on there at 1:30. And we're talking about the introductions, the calendar, the criteria. I'm working with Sandra to get some information for, and Michelle to get information for some advertising issues to do that. We're recommending that it gets advertised immediately, and as soon as we just finish the contract, Michelle and I, so it'll be on our website tomorrow to do that. And again, those areas that I said, School Board Association, Administrator Associations, our website, that'll go on tomorrow. But we do have two, actually we have three we recommend. One is the American Association of School Administrators website. That is, we did a poll of our applicants about 4 years ago and asked them where they found out about the jobs. Number one was our website, but number two is the AASA website. That is the vehicle for superintendents. They charge for 30 days online, $400, $650 for 60 days, or $880 for 90 days. I would recommend to you at least 60 days on their website, but you will need to direct me as we do that. Also recommend that we do Ed Week for 30 days, that's $495. And then we have the Association of Latino Superintendents and Administrators. And I think that would be appropriate also, and that's $150 for 6 weeks. So those are three that we'll need to have some direction on as to placing those or not. Let me jump ahead, because this is a work session, right? We're not going to be.
Right.
Let me talk about stakeholder meetings. We're going to have a team of 4 consultants here. I think we've proposed 4 days to meet with your stakeholders. Our goal is that we don't want anybody in your community to say they did not have an opportunity to provide input into this process. So our typical stakeholders are teachers. Let me start with the internal ones. Teachers, students, classified staff, principals, central office, and I think that's it for the internal. And so those are pretty easy to figure out because they're already employed here and we're able to schedule them to do that. But every district's unique. I would recommend at a minimum of 1 community forum. District your size, I think we should be looking at 2 or 3 because we're going to be here for a number of nights to do that. With the community forum, it's an open forum. And let me just step back. At these meetings, when we meet with the individuals, we have 4 questions we ask them. Tell us the good things about this community. 2, tell us the good things about the school district. That's important to us because we're selling you to candidates, and it's important for us to hear from your constituents what they value in this area to do that. And so we share that. We're going to be writing down everything we hear from each individual, and that's going to go in a report that comes back to you, and it's going to be printed. And we recommend that you put that online. The third question we asked them, what are the issues here? If you could share with the new superintendent as he or she comes in, what would you want them to know to be successful? Every district has issues, increasing enrollment, declining enrollment, facility issues, financial issues. What we want to do is identify what your challenges are because we're going to be sharing those with the candidates also as we go out and do that. And then the final question we ask them, based on that, what do you think the skills, qualities, characteristics this person should have to be successful here? As I said, we're going to write all of that down. It's going to go into a report that comes back to you with an executive summary. The executive summary says, here are the reoccurring themes we heard from all the groups for these 4 questions as we do that. But you're going to get a copy of everything we heard from every individual. Now, we know we can't accommodate everybody's calendar, so those same 4 questions are going to go on a website people get to electronically. So again, we don't want anybody to say they did not have an opportunity to give input into the process. And again, we recommend once that report has been presented to you, that it be posted on your website and our website so your constituents can see it. Now let me back up and talk about the groups that you think we should meet with that represent your community. Every community is unique. I talked about the community forums. We'd want to do 2 or 3 of those. But then are there other groups that you think we should be meeting with, particularly to get input as we do that? We have met with ministerial alliances. We've met with chambers of commerce. We have met with business groups. We meet with advisory groups, whatever. And so I'm going to ask you to give me groups that you think we should meet with, and then I'll work out with Michelle and Sandra the logistics of that. But if you can give me groups that you think would be important for us to meet with.
I just have a clarifying question.
Okay, go ahead.
So, meeting with these other groups could just be invited to these other community
They
forums,
certainly can.
too,
They could
but-
just be invited to the community forum. And that's why I'm saying, every district's unique, so we don't know. And we want to know, you know, what, if there are individual groups that you want us to meet with.
Okay. Board Member Beckham?
That was my question also, but I also
Didn't that
was
come through
going to
on that?
add.
Excuse me.
That's fine. I also was just going to add, we do have a civic organization that's very involved. It's called the Charos, and that is an organization, whether we invite them to one of the meetings or if it was felt it was necessary to have their own.
And what's the title of it?
Charos.
Scottsdale
Charos.
CHARROS.
It's a men's civic organization, but it has been very involved in funding and volunteering time to our schools.
Okay.
And I would say on that note, there's also the Scottsdale Foundation,
Yes.
and I would include BUS.
Yeah.
All right.
in that, because that would be
I'm
the chamber.
going to get these up. As you can tell, I'm in an advanced stage, and I'm wearing hearing aids, so you have to speak a little bit louder for
Sorry.
me.
Is my
Okay.
inside voice?
So what, we have the Charos, the Scottsdale Foundation,
Okay?
and then we call it BUS, but it's Business United for Scottsdale Schools.
Give me the initials again.
BUS, B-U-S-S.
Got it.
It's housed within the Scottsdale Chamber of Commerce. so-
Okay.
Right. Board Member Kravitz.
What about having, you mentioned 2 or 3 for the community, but what about having meetings for each learning community?
How many learning communities do
We
you
have 5, because we
can
have
do that.
5 high schools, so one at each high school.
What we've done with districts this size, anybody could attend any of those, but we'd probably do a noon and evening so that we could get 5 in.
Yeah,
to do
just-
that.
Yeah, a comment on that.
Yeah, I do too.
Board Member Hartman.
So, our learning communities cover 112 square miles.
Uh-huh.
So, if there is a way, we need to figure out how to do that so that there's accessibility to each of the communities, because they really do represent.
Yeah, what we've typically done, and you'll have to tell me, because I don't know your logistics, we hold those meetings at the high schools.
That'd be fun.
Yeah.
There's
So-
5 of them, though.
Yeah, and that's why I'm saying it'd be noon, evening, and anybody can attend any one of
Right.
those.
Okay.
So that
10
if they
minutes.
couldn't work it out.
Okay, Board Member Kirby.
So when Board Member Kravitz suggested the 5 learning communities, I was taken back to the last time we held not search meetings, superintendent search meetings, but facility meetings at each of the learning communities. And I'd like to know how you handle when the same few people, the same few vocal people show up at every single meeting and control and dominate the dialogue that you're trying to have with the constituent group.
Yeah, you know, and that sometimes happens to us occasionally, but after about the second or third time, we just say, hey, I already got your information, I already heard it. The individuals that'll be running this are all former superintendents, and so they've dealt with vocal individuals before.
So can I follow up? So the individuals that are running, let's say we have 5 learning communities, so
Yeah.
we have 5 meetings. Will it be the same people running all 5 meetings?
There will be 2 teams of 2.
So they may not know that, that person,
Yeah.
that community member showed up.
I'm gonna give you a trade secret. At the end of every day, we get together and talk about what we heard and who we heard it from. There's a debriefing at the end of every day. So if we do have someone dominating, we're gonna know.
And please, and this is a.
And again, we want to hear from everybody. We're not gonna-
And I agree,
Yeah.
and I want you to hear from everyone. It's just been my experience, remember, I've been here 8 years.
Yep.
That the same few people, and it's over time gotten worse, they show up and they dominate every single dialogue, so that the rest of the community is never heard.
And we're very good at drawing out other people. We're very good about orchestrating the public input and saying, what do you have to say now?
Okay.
And reaching out to them. Do that.
Board Member Beckham.
And from what I understand, you also do a survey. You also do a survey. So
Right.
those people who cannot attend those meetings or who felt uncomfortable speaking at those meetings
Yes.
could then respond on a survey. Is
Right.
that correct?
And I forgot to mention, we can do those surveys in multiple languages.
Oh, good.
So we can reach out in their native language.
Board Member Kravitz?
What I would like to make sure there's a representative from Scottsdale Community College at one of our meetings. They may choose to attend one of the community meetings, but I think it's important that someone from SCC is there, and, you know, perhaps ASU, since we send so many of our students to ASU. I think we may send more students from Scottsdale than any other district. Okay.
For those open community forums that we talked about,
Yeah.
I'm going to ask each of you to give me 5 names of individuals that you want invited.
Okay.
And don't pick your cheerleaders. I mean, cheerleaders are fine, but also the people that are showing up at your board meetings that have questions for you. We're neutral outsiders.
Right.
We want to hear and we'll report back to you. So if you'll give us, and it's an open invitation. It says your name has been given to us by the board. Someone that can provide valuable input into the process. Here's the meeting time, date, and by the way, bring your friends and neighbors. So it's not, we find we get better turnout if we do that.
I have a question about the staff. Is it unrealistic hope to sit down with each of our principals? Like, I think
How many principals do you have?
29? Great.
How many?
Is that right?
That's right.
Individually. Is that unrealistic?
No, and let me back up. We didn't budget for that in our proposal. We certainly can do
Okay.
that, but it's going to be additional time.
Okay.
I mean, it's not going to be an additional fee, but it's going to be additional expenses.
Okay. So how do you break up the staff then?
Well, we've
as
done a
far
district
as-
this size. First of all, if you've got 5 learning districts, we'll probably focus our staff meetings around each of those learning districts. So that we'll be out and doing that. With principals, and I don't know how you have organized, but we can meet with the high school principals, we can meet with middle school principals, we can meet with elementary principals.
We can do either that or the learning communities. Both of those scenarios work well.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the fact you've got learning communities already organized, that's probably going to be the best way to organize it. And I assume you have advisory committees at schools?
Oh, site councils.
Site councils, yeah. So and again, I can work on the logistics. I just want to make sure that we get those that you think are important to make sure we reach out to. So I've got Charles, Scottsdale Foundation, BUS, and then our 5 learning communities.
And Scottsdale Community College.
Thank you.
And ASU, because we do have a partnership with them with Coronado.
Again, you're going to have to speak louder.
Oh, ASU, and we can get you the name on that, but we have a partnership with them, with one of our learning complexes.
CSU?
ASU.
ASU.
Arizona,
Oh,
Arizona
excuse me.
State University.
Arizona State.
Go Sun Devils.
And we don't want to leave out the city of Scottsdale or the Chamber. I know that
Oh, right.
BUS is
BUS
part
is
of it.
part of
but
the
we'll-
Chamber,
but
right.
we need to say it, I think, here, that we're not leaving them out.
Leaving them out, right.
They're very important to us.
Are there any others that you can, and you can add these, later if we think of others that we can do. And again, the fact that you've got the 5 learning communities, that's just going to give us the organization that we need to reach out to them to do that. But I want to make sure that, like the community college and the foundation, make sure that we catch them. And they may just get an invitation to one of the open community meetings, or if we can set up individual meetings with them.
Board Member Beckham.
When you have a set of questions, especially regarding a survey, is there 2 surveys, one for the community and one for the employees of the
No.
organization? Or is it the same?
We asked the
one?
same 4 questions to all groups.
Same 4 questions?
Those
is
same
it?
4 questions I just went through, and those 4 questions are on the electronic survey.
Oh. so
And they
there's-
self-identify, I'm a student, I'm a parent, whatever, they self-identify what category. Now, when we write down what we hear from individually from the people who are face-to-face with, we don't edit. I mean, we write exactly what they tell us, put it down. I will tell you with the electronic survey, we do some editing because sometimes we get some profanity and other things that come in because they're anonymous, but we don't take out the intent of the answer. And like I say, we encourage you to post this so everybody can see it when we're done.
On your survey, is it one survey per computer, or how do you limit
Yeah,
that somebody doesn't come in and hit it 50
One
times?
per computer to do that. And we've had some clever people that went to 2 computers, but the answers are the same, so It's pretty easy to figure it out.
Okay.
And again, we want to be inclusive, not exclusive, but we do have to have some kind of mechanism to do that. So, any others that groups?
Board Member Beckham.
I don't have anybody else I want to add, but I actually have a clarifying question
Yeah.
that I wanted to ask before we moved on to
Sure.
the third part of your agenda. And that was to clarify, I think that a little confusion came up because in your timeline, we have this meeting, and then all of a sudden we advertise for a position, and then we have our group meetings. I think a lot of people just naturally first is, hey, you're not going to go out and advertise until you get your community input and the criteria input
Right.
and whatnot. So it sounds like, and this is the clarification I want, is that when you advertise for the position, it's superintendent of Scottsdale Unified School District, it's location, it's enrollment, it's some
Right.
facts. You're not going into any true criteria yet, or?
We will be as we put together your announcement of vacancy brochure, which talks about your community, talks about your school districts. We like to have pictures of kids in there, talks about the timeline, and it lists the top 5 criteria as we do that. But that comes in later. When I talk about advertising, it's getting it out there that this is open. Let's get people's attention.
That's what
just
I
what
wanna
you're
make sure.
saying. And then we refine the application procedures.
And so you update it as we go
Yes,
along? All
but
right. I think the public needs
Yeah.
to hear that.
It'll go live tomorrow or the next day on our website so people can start watching, and it'll be more information coming.
Yeah, great.
Board Member Hartman.
You know, to that point, transparency, similar to your value, is really important in this district too. And so, for example, this conversation, this timeline would be something that would be great to have in writing so that we can post to our website or a link
Right.
to your website. Does that exist? Or, I mean, I kind of
As
expected to
soon
see
as
this in writing.
you all approve the calendar tonight, I will
Okay.
get you a clean copy, and that gets posted.
Okay.
So everybody knows when things are.
On our website or your website, or how
Both.
does it work? Okay,
Yeah,
so there's a link.
and we cross-link
Okay.
to the 2
Great.
websites.
Great.
Again, I've got people in the office that know how to do that. I wouldn't have any clue. All right, stakeholder groups, I think we're proposing the week of October 22nd. I got on your website and looked at school activities, and that one seems pretty open for us with very little content.
break?
It's after
it's
fall
after.
break.
Okay.
It's
Yeah.
after.
In fact, our recommendation is that you not attend those meetings. Now, you certainly can, because this is your search. But we find out that people are a little bit more open with us than when there's board members in the room. However, I've had searches where board members attended every meeting. It's your search. But what happens is they come up to us afterwards and say, I didn't want to say this in front of a board member, but here's what I want to tell you. And it gets recorded, it gets put in there. So you shouldn't have to tie up your time for these 4 days.
Board Member Hartman.
Thank you. So the week of October 22nd is when we'd have these. Is it 5 or 10 meetings that you're proposing?
Oh, I'm going to guess that we're probably going to end up with 15 or 20 meetings.
Okay,
Because
so,
we're going to have teachers, we're going to have students, we're going to have classified staff, we're going to have principals, we're going to have central office, and then the community groups.
and then 10 community groups?
Yeah,
Okay, and that's all the week of 10/22?
It'd probably be the first 4 days. I think we can get it done then.
Okay.
And I think that's what we put in the proposal to do that. They will do it. I am proposing that we meet again November 19th. It'll be Dr. Joel and Dr. Camerzell had conflicts today. They wanted to be here, but I said to Michelle that I can be here on the 25th so we can get it moving, and you all agreed to that. But they will probably be there, as well as Dr. Winter, who will be coordinating the stakeholder groups.
It's the week before Thanksgiving.
We're proposing November 19th. Can you check your calendar and see if that works for you?
No, it doesn't work for
So
me.
that's the Monday of Thanksgiving week.
No, it's a Friday. Oh, sorry. Blah, 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 blah. That
It's a
was
Monday.
October, my bad. I apologize. That is the Monday of Thanksgiving.
And this is to do
I
exactly.
will,
At this meeting, what we're going to do is we're going to give you the
Report on
report of the stakeholder meetings, and we're going to hand that out to you. We're going to verbally go over the executive summary, but say you can read the rest of this at your leisure. We're also, basically, this is just logistics. We're going to be talking about creating interview questions with you that evening. determining the interview procedures and schedule that time to get that worked out to do that.
When is our,
Board Member Kirby,
when is our regular governing board meeting that month?
the 13th.
That's the Tuesday? Is it,
Tuesday, the 13th. I'm assuming Thanksgiving is the 22nd?
Yes.
Okay.
is it possible to, so we don't have to do it on the 13th since we're already here?
I checked the calendar of my other two consultants. They both have conflicts on your date.
Oh.
That's why we're recommending the 19th.
Yeah, the 19th does work for me.
Because that was my initial recommendation. I sent this out to my other consultants before I brought it to you and say, let me know if you have conflicts. And they did have a conflict on that date. They both have board meetings.
Board Member Beckham?
Is it possible also before the actual meeting date, I know we haven't decided, but let's say it's the 19th, can we receive that report so that we could have read it and be prepared for that meeting? Or is there some reason that you want to present it to the public and it to us
We
at the same
prefer to
time?
present in an open session. Just bring out and say, here's the report, the executive summary, here's who we met with, here's the days we met. Here are the reoccurring themes that we heard from all the four questions. After that, everything that's written, that we heard is written in that report.
Board Member Kirby?
But I'm going to agree with Board Member Beckham. As a board member, it's really hard, and this goes not for just this goes true for every presentation that's brought to us. It's really hard to sit here and go through information and have someone telling us what to focus on and not have an opportunity to sit back and pull out our own conclusions from it. It just almost feels like we're being led by the nose down. Yeah. And so if we have an opportunity to see that report, even if it's, I don't know, a couple days in advance, then
I think
we can also ask questions.
Yeah, I think we can accommodate that. It's an information item only. Here's what we heard. Here it is.
I agree.
But here's the difference, is that you're saying on here, we're going to select interview questions. Those interview questions, a lot of them might be based upon what we hear in that oral report. So I'm not going to be prepared unless I can kind of discern
and let me go to our procedure
really
for that. Based on the criteria that is determined tonight, this afternoon by you, and based on what we hear from your groups, we are going to bring in interview questions that match what we've heard and have you read and select from there. We're not going to sit with a blank sheet of paper and write them. You certainly can add questions, but we start with the template. We found that's a whole lot more efficient than trying to write 25 questions sitting at a table with a blank sheet of paper.
Well, I understand even if you have a template, but you still have to have the time to be able to go through what the oral report says. Because I want personally, and I know the rest of the board members do, we want to read every single one of these. And not just, I appreciate you reading it and giving the highlights, but we're going to be ones being held accountable. And so I think that we go through and read everything. And that's going to give us a lot of information on how to select those interview questions, whether it's a template or not. That's just my view.
I agree. I think time to digest all of the information, put it through our lens as well, having time to do that, and then be able to discuss questions, and then be able to discuss, you know, the interview procedures and that type of thing. I mean, so I might make a recommendation that maybe purely as an information discussion item, if there is a way for someone to present it on the 13th, and then we come back for the 19th for a more thorough discussion, actual decisions. Would that
So they just bring it on the 13th?
I'm just throwing that out there as a possibility.
Presentation, or just make sure we have the report by the 13th so that we can read it.
To be presented in open meeting on the 13th, and then we have that time until the 19th to truly have a discussion and make decisions. I'm just throwing that out there as a possibility. Because I know you said you'd like to present it in an open meeting.
Yeah.
So that provides it.
That's fine, but I'm sure, will there be costs for you to come in on the 13th?
Oh, that's a good question.
I don't really need somebody to present it, because that, again, is defeating the purpose of what I want to do, is read it.
That's
So,
true.
And I just assume save the travel fees.
Extra cost. I agree.
I mean, if we want to read it beforehand,
just want
to digest, so that we can formulate questions, so that we're not trying to formulate questions on the fly on the 19th.
Right.
very, I agree 100%
I know,
with that
I'm the queen
concern.
of coming up
Yes.
with a question after the
I-
fact,
yes.
so, or a statement, so.
We
All
can do
agree
it.
with that concern.
So I think the best thing to do is you have the report without, we don't need to be here for you
Okay,
to have the
right,
report.
great.
Because we're going to come back on the 19th. And then I would recommend, based on the question you have, and again, I want to come back to this is your process, we'll do it. If you all, after you read that report, would bring 5 or 6 questions that you would like asked to that meeting, we'll still have a template that we'll work
Right,
off
that's
of.
fine.
But then we'll have those questions for input to do it. Does that work for you? Okay.
Yes, thank you.
And so that was November 13th. Is that correct?
November
No,
19th.
and it
Is
But-
that, does that date work for everyone?
November 19th, we're going to meet with
Yeah,
you, but you wanted the
right,
report
I
on the
spoke
13th?
out of turn.
Well, if it doesn't have to be presented in a meeting, then it doesn't matter, but I would think we'd like a week with it or so.
Sure.
I mean, so yeah.
Does that
13th
give
was,
you enough
13th was just
time?
our regular meeting, so that's,
Yeah, that's
we
Tuesday.
already
The
got it.
22nd.
Gives them
That's
enough.
Tuesday to
Does that give you enough time?
I don't know if I can be here on the 19th. I didn't bring my calendar, because I didn't know we were gonna be setting up hard dates.
So are we good for the 19th?
We'll have to respond.
4 of them are,
Okay,
and they can move forward
okay,
if I can.
all right. And if you can't, let me know. We can always try and work out an alternate date.
Okay.
So I'm proposing that we close the application process December 17th. And I'm going to tell you, you're out ahead of the game. You're at prime time for recruiting right now as getting people in. December 17th, time to get their applications into us, everything complete. And then that triggers a whole bunch of work for us that you're not going to see. And that's our screening and vetting and reference checking as we're going through. We read the completed application of every individual. We begin sorting them against what we've heard from you and your community to do that. We begin a sorting process. We then begin our vetting process, which is, I've been in HR 40 plus years. I've yet to find somebody who puts a reference down and doesn't like them. We know that. We start with them. We ask them the list of questions that we have around your criteria and other things. We have 2 questions at the end that are critical to us. Anything in this person's background, if it became public information, would be an embarrassment to this district. That's when we learned along the way. We used to say, any skeletons, anything you want to share with me? Real easy to say no to those 2, but if you phrase it, anything in the background, if it became public information, would be an embarrassment to the district. 99% of the time, there's nothing there. Occasionally, there's a hesitation. And we say, we're professional consultants. This is totally confidential. What would you like to share with us? Just because we hear from one person doesn't make it so. So we then say, would you give us a name or 2 or 3 other individuals that can speak to the person's ability? They do. We call them. We ask them the same list of questions, including, would you give us a name or 2 or 3 other individuals that can speak this person's ability? We go a minimum of 3 removed from primary references, and what we're looking for is consistency of answers. Now, when we come and meet with you to bring in candidates, we're going to have a list of everybody that applied. We're not taking anybody's name off the list. So they're your applicants, they're not ours. But we will have prepared what we call our short list. Here are the 5, 6, 7, maybe 8 that we think are most closely meeting what you said you're looking for. And when we come in for that final board meeting, that's what we'll be going through with you. Plus, we will have a 9-minute videotape of each of those individuals for you to share with. But I just jumped ahead there. So closing.
Before you move on, can I?
Board Member Kirby?
Okay, so before you move forward, back to a question that Board Member Beckham asked on the advertising that the position is open, and initially it's just the position's open. But at what point do applications open, and when is the full candidate profile get posted, as opposed to just the position's open?
As soon as tonight, I'm going to take you this afternoon. I'm not used to
But can we
working
put it in the calendar? Can you
excuse-
calendar that part for me, please?
Is the calendar, what?
Can you calendar those
The
2?
updated
Yeah.
posting?
So as soon, I'm going to take you through a procedure in a little while here, and you as a governing board are going to come up with your top 4 or 5, maybe 6 areas that are really important to you as a board. Legally, you have to do this. That's your responsibility. We're also going to check when we meet with the stakeholders to parallel it with what you're telling me now. Once we have that information, it's going to be an announcement of vacancy brochure is going to get posted. And that criteria is going to go on the application. And that's when it goes to people starting filling out information.
So
that's probably going to take a couple weeks.
Okay, but when does that, my question is, if I'm looking at this calendar that you proposed, when does that happen? What's the date? And give or take a couple days.
I'm going to say that the announcement of vacancy brochure probably be ready in 2 weeks.
Probably
Okay.
when? I'm not sure. 2 weeks from today?
That's not what I'm asking.
Yeah.
No.
But
But
that-
the stakeholders' information is included in,
Not an announcement of vacancy report.
and that's what we're trying
That's
to
what we're trying-
understand.
Yeah. Announcement
So,
of vacancy is be your criteria. It's going to have a description of the district, the community. It's going to have the timeline. It's going to have your names on there. This is the information that people need to read and know to decide if they're going to apply or not to do that. I will tell you that when we meet with your community groups, we will have your criteria with us. And in the 40 years I've done this, at the end of asking about issues, I will read the criteria that you've given us and say about 99% of what you just told us tonight, that those groups, is included in this criteria. And that happens, there's only been one time we've deviated from that. And it was because the board did not put in a criteria around a bond issue that was coming up. So we added that to it.
we have,
Tonight?
I think we have a little bit of a different community here. So our community is expecting
Seriously.
to be heard.
They will be.
But no, before we make the decision of what that profile is. It's very
It
important.
depends.
I know.
Wait, hang on. And I think it
At least I
depends.
think
I think
so.
we need to talk about semantics here, because when you say profile, what do you mean? Because it could range from must have been a K-12 public school district superintendent with the superintendent certificate, all the way to a skill set of must have managed a bond of over $200 million or greater, to a quality that we're looking for. So profile is a very broad term, so when we go through this exercise as a board in a little while, I don't yet know what is going to come out of that. And so then I agree with Board Member Beckham, is I think this is going to end up getting more complex than you might be anticipating. It's all.
Let's see what comes out of the exercise and come back and visit it. Can we do that?
Well,
Board Member Hartman.
do we want to lock down calendar first or come back to the calendar?
No, I want to finish the calendar before we go
Okay,
to
so,
that. Yeah.
all right.
But I'm just saying, this is a good
Calendar.
discussion, and we've done it both ways. Done it both ways, so. But let's get the calendar done, and then do the criteria, and then come back and visit how we're going to incorporate community input into that.
Well,
Board Member
like, I
Kravitz.
guess that's my question, is what date do you anticipate updating the advertisement that reflects the stakeholder input for what our
It would have to
skill
come
set
after
is?
that October 22nd.
Okay, so so I just want to be clear
Yeah.
on
But does
that.
it,
that-
okay, but does it also have to come after
19th.
November 19th? Because that's the first time that it will be made public. And if so, then
we need to
the applications close less than a month after that.
Yeah, and that's not a problem.
I wonder if we need to have that window,
I
a longer
would
window.
prefer having a longer window for applicants to post to the job after they've really seen what we're looking for here in Scottsdale, as opposed to just shy of 4 weeks.
So,
And just, we did a survey of our applicants 4 years ago. 75 to 80% of them came in the last 2 days. I mean, these are busy people. They're going to know it's open. They're going to know a lot about you through the announcement of vacancy brochure, through the report. It's a matter then if they're going to make a decision to apply. This is a two-way decision-making process. We're going to try and attract quality people to you. We're going to start by what you're telling us as a board, identifying individuals that we think have those qualities, and we're going to begin recruiting them to do that.
Board Member Hartman?
So I have a request in the spirit of maximizing the time that our community input is reflected in however we describe this position. That collection of information is the week of 10/22. We're not getting our report until 11/13, which is 3 weeks later. Is it possible to get that information sooner? And instead of having an 11/19 date, kind of move that up to maybe the week before. That gives you 2 weeks to consolidate information.
I agree.
Yeah.
And allows our community to think back.
I mean, as soon as you said 2 weeks, I was going to say that's the minimum amount of time we need to prepare that report.
2 weeks.
Yeah.
Well, actually, did you hear what she said?
Can we move the October 22nd date up?
There were a lot of conflicts on your calendar. As I was going through, that was the best time for things not being interrupted. We're after fall break. I don't remember your calendar
Other
right
than
now.
fall break, what are the other conflicts on our calendars?
I don't remember. I mean, I prepared this a couple weeks ago, but I was on your calendar looking for potential times.
Is there a conflict maybe with your calendar? Because we could maybe look at seeing what it is and moving it up, because I think it would benefit this district to get that information sooner.
It's possible.
The 8th through the 12th.
Again, I went on your calendar and took a look at 4 days with no interruptions that we could come in. I mean, there's no parent-teacher conferences, there's no fall break. And again, I don't remember the times that were there. We also need time to get it organized, to get all those meetings set up and organized.
I personally can understand, especially from a staff point of view, where the week right after fall break may be challenging. I mean, that's just a perception I would have, but
Be better
before fall break.
Before fall break.
No.
Our community, I think, is very anxious to participate in this process.
Sure.
And I agree with Board Member Beckham. The delay seems unnecessary. And so can we pull out a SUSD calendar and look at moving the stakeholder meetings up?
We can. It's going to be dependent upon my 4 consultants also schedule, which I've cleared now.
I mean, that pretty much gets it down to the week of October 1 or October 15th. With the 8th being fall.
In October 1, we can't get it organized by then. I mean, we're trying to set up numerous groups at 5 learning communities and get them advertised and get information out for people to know when and where they are.
I agree. That's a very short window. That's less than a week to get ready by October 1.
Yeah, there's no way
That's
we can
not
do it
in the
next week.
morning.
Can we do it the week of October 15th? That's the next available week.
It says parent conferences, but I don't know that parent conferences is going to be a deterrent for stakeholders to come to these meetings, because you're running them, not the district. So
We just try to avoid any conflicts you already have on your schedule. And if they have to choose between the parent-teacher conference or coming to us, they're going to go to parent-teacher conferences. I hope.
Well,
Yeah, but we're
I
going to
don't- I just don't see that
we're going to
an
have
obstacle.
at least
10
five,
meetings,
10
10.
community meetings. A parent-teacher conference is how long, Dr. Nance?
10
It's
minutes.
10 minutes.
Yeah.
So
I don't see it.
that's not going to be a problem.
I can see more of a problem for a teacher because they're preparing. So
Yeah.
that teacher meeting, but that's different. Those
This-
would be dead different.
And I want to come back to organize all those. That's 4 weeks away. We're going to be working with 2 of your staff members in our home office to get these organized, the places, the times, the information out for people to show up, and the invitations. I'll tell you what will cause you more headaches than going 4 weeks is that people not get their invitation until the day of the meeting, which has happened to us in the past. Want to make sure they have enough time to know about it, get on their calendars, and be there.
Right. I think that would be the challenge right after fall break too. If things were coming out during fall break, invitations and postings and social media, everyone gets back from fall break that Sunday and then starts
Yeah,
going through emails.
we need to get those invitations out
That's
as soon as
challenging.
possible so they get them on their calendars.
Well, after this meeting, people will, whenever we choose, people will know, and it will be posted, that meetings will be going on during X week. So they can anticipate during whatever week we choose that there will be a meeting. We just don't have the specifics necessarily, but there will be a choice of 5 at least for them to attend.
10.
Daytime and night.
Daytime, nighttime, yeah, whatever.
Can we stay with the week of the 22nd?
Well, I thought we just kind of, I don't know.
Did I miss something?
I just wonder, do we
It
push
sounds,
things back?
like that your organization's not, it needs 4 weeks to get this
Yeah.
put together.
Not just my
So-
organization, but
With our organization
your
as
internal
well.
people, this is where they work.
Right, right. So how fast after that week is over can you get the information to us? Maybe that's where we can move it
Well,
out
I said
sometime.
2 weeks, so
2
that would be
weeks.
November 5th. So that would
So
be.
November 5th is better than November 19th.
Yeah, much better.
2 weeks.
Okay, so
So November 5th?
Yeah.
Maybe we could check to see if the 4 consultants you work with are available.
Sooner?
That's just
It doesn't get you the information.
We don't need it.
We don't need 4 consultants to present to us.
No. Oh, I'm sorry. It was the 4 consultants on the 22nd. You're right.
We
You
just need a
need
work
one.
session.
Right.
Which, by the way, the 8th, I think, is a work session, correct? 8th is a,
The 8th is a study session.
so you could get it to us the 5th, and we could put this on our
On our-
study session on
Perfect.
November 8th.
The 5th isn't 2 weeks from the end of the interviews, it's 2 weeks from the beginning of the interviews.
November 5th is 1 week. Because we won't be done till the 25th.
Okay, but that'll give you, I mean, that's 5, I mean,
11 days.
we can give you, yeah, I mean, that'd be up to 8 working days. I mean, 10 working days is 2 weeks, so the 7th.
Takes more time for us to prepare that than that. We need a minimum of 2 weeks.
Oh.
That's what we do.
All right, well,
So the
that would
12th,
be the
back to
8th.
the-
That would be the 8th. Get it to us in the morning, we'll look at it, we've already got this scheduled.
We'll shoot for the 8th.
Report goes to them on the 8th.
Last 2 calendar events. January 10th, you have a work session on your calendar. I don't know if you've already have it dedicated to something or not, but this is the important meeting. This is where we're really going to be getting in and delving and sharing what we found out about these candidates.
Well, wait, that's assuming that. Now that we've pushed it back, could we get it to December? I'm sorry.
Break.
You know.
Well, why not? When's our December board meeting and general work session? It's the 6th? Yep, the 6th and the 11th.
Based on our experience, and you're going to be looking at a lot of seated superintendents that'll be applying here. They need that time to get things into us to do that.
Yeah, I don't put them close.
And they need the time for what you were saying, to make the decision if they're going to apply here. When we started our vetting process, over the holidays is a tough time to get hold of people. And so we need a minimum of 2 weeks between closing and presenting to you. If we got a holiday in there, we need 3 weeks. And so that's why I proposed that. And I saw that you did already have a work session on the 10th. We need about probably 3 hours for this. We don't want you to feel rushed. We want to have all the information in front of you, give you enough time to discuss all these individuals and choose who you want to invite in for an interview.
2 new board members at that meeting. And we have to do our reorganization at that meeting. And that's no big deal, but that is at that meeting.
It almost seems like you need it as a separate meeting if it's 3 hours long.
Well, can I
Board Member Hartman.
This conversation isn't squaring with the conversation we had with you on the last work session, which was when I think you participated by phone.
Yeah.
At that point, we said from beginning to end, I asked that specific question, 60 to 90 days, of which we may not have a decision by then, but it was feasible. So
Sure.
if we're And we purposely had this conversation today, September 25th. So that December 6th or 11th meeting is clearly within the 60 to 90 days. So I don't know how you could say that just last week, knowing we're having this meeting today, and say now that it's not doable.
I haven't said it's not doable.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought I heard you say there's no way you could do it before.
No way I could do it.
December.
I'm having trouble hearing you.
Okay, so then it is an open conversation. So let's talk about what it would take to achieve utilizing the December 6th and 11th scheduled meetings.
December 6th and 11th? Is that what you said?
Yes. And so what we've agreed to so far is that the week of 10/22, we'll do the stakeholder meetings. The date of November 8th, we'll do the summary of the information as well as the question development.
I thought that was just when we're getting the report.
No, we're doing it all that day.
It's using that to develop our questions. So we're
Instead of the 19th, it's now November 8th.
And then
I'm not sure if McPherson Jacobson, is there confirmation that that date would be available for everyone to meet?
No, we're talking about
November 8th?
getting you the report ahead of time, not changing our meeting with you.
I feel strongly we're not all understanding the
We're not
calendar year
understanding.
situation. Because I was kind of hearing that too, like, oh, we'd
report on the
receive the report on the 8th. But if you're talking about
Presentation on
an
the 13th.
actual meeting and presentation on the 8th,
that's what I'm talking
the
about.
problem is that kind of makes it impossible for us to have the report for a week to digest.
Right.
Well,
That's the problem
we're
with
used to
that.
getting things at the last minute. So if we get it the morning of, we can look at it.
Well, for something this important, I don't think we should be getting it the last minute.
Okay, well.
Especially. I mean, that was the whole point of getting the report early so we could digest,
But we don't need 2
questions.
weeks. So if we got it on November 8th, we don't need 11 days to digest it.
11 days.
You have a meeting on the 13th.
But that's a regular board meeting.
But that's when he doesn't have his.
That was my
And I come back
understanding.
to Board Member Hartman's question, was this a 60 or 90-day process or not?
You can structure it however you want. I'm proposing what I think works best for our candidates and also for you to make that decision right after the first of the year. I mean, that's in our 27 years, that is the prime time.
Board Member Beckham?
I'm not going to address that question right now because I'm going to go back. I think that we have a little bit of a confusion. The meeting, whatever date it's on, in which you have down, the oral report is presented.
Mhm.
We discuss it, we select questions, we determine these questions, decide on compensation package. What of that information is then updated, if any, updated to the website to change the profile? Because I'm thinking from what you've said, there's nothing in that meeting that actually changes the profile because the profile has already been determined.
If we see that there are any anomalies, what we heard from your community, we will be recommending to you to say you need to take a look at this. And again, as I told you, out of the 700 searches, it only happened one time because the board missed that they did have a bond issue coming up, and we heard that really from the community.
Right.
So we inserted a criteria about bond issues. And you're right, there are going to be specific skill sets, there are going to be personality traits. We have all of those to do.
That's the big meeting that determines that you kind of come to a consensus on about what everybody's looking for. Is that what I'm hearing? Is on that, it's dated here, November 19th, whatever date it ends up, but this is a very vital meeting from what you've said.
It's an affirmation that you and your community are on the same track. That's what happens at that meeting.
But you also determine interview questions and compensation package, and those are two very big items.
Yeah.
Okay. And then from that, I would think you update, or do you not put your compensation package on the advertisement?
We typically don't.
Okay, that's okay.
Now, we're going to ask you at that meeting to either give us a minimum of or a range. And we need to do some research before we come in and meet with you to have some information for you.
Okay, but, so the only change from that meeting is if there is something to be amended from what the board decides on the criteria. That's typically how you do it. Doesn't mean that's how we have to do it, but that's typically how it's done and how this is set up.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, we're going to take a little 2-minute break real quick and come back. We have a little technical issue to deal with. Going to be a little closer.
Yeah, I think that would be a
for-
good idea.
We wanted to make sure that he was on camera. That's where he is, but now they've determined that they can move him closer. It might help the communication better.
Fine with me.
So we'll take a
Great.
quick break on. Time is 2:40 and we are reconvened. I think Board Member Kravitz, you had a question.
Oh, skip me, I'll
Okay,
remember it later.
okay, all right. So I guess we'll refresh. Board Member Beckham, did you have a statement? I'm trying to remember where we were leaving off.
Pick up, but yeah.
So what
Go ahead,
Board Member Beckham was trying to ask, this board needs clarification on the process we go through today to establish the profile gets put on the website. Is that a true or false statement?
It's, once you approve it, it's true.
And when do we do that?
As soon as I wordsmith it and get it back to you.
So that'll happen, when's our next board meeting?
October 4th.
October 4th is the earliest that can happen. So that's important to know.
That's next
Oh,
week.
We do have a
Thursday,
meeting on
meeting
Thursday,
Thursday.
2 days.
Okay.
There's
So
a
that's
chance I can have that for you.
Profile approval. Then, so that's going to say X. Then in your experience, you go to the community, which you're going to do 2 weeks later,
Yes.
and expect that to be affirmed.
We don't ask them to affirm it. We ask them their questions
I
at the very
understand,
beginning.
but in your experience,
Yes, at the end, we read what you've come up with, and invariably, it is, pretty much matches the things you just told us. And we get a lot of head nods, yes, it does.
okay. But if it doesn't, if
Then
there's
we will-
something missing,
Then we'll be back to you.
then it comes back to us before it gets put on the website.
Probably not, it'll get amended.
What, the website will be amended?
Yeah, the criteria will be amended.
So the board won't approve that community feedback before the criteria gets amended? So then why do we have to go through approval to put the original criteria?
Because it's going to be your criteria, what we come up with today, and when we send it back to you, we want to have you say, yep, this is exactly what we said.
Okay, but what I'm hearing you also say is that when you go on the 22nd, the week of the 22nd to the community, if they come up with additional criteria, you just put that on the website. You do not bring it back to the board for approval.
We don't put that on the website.
Oh.
That all goes into the report.
That we're going to get on the 8th
Yes,
and discuss on the 19th.
yes.
Then we, I guess, have an approval process possibly to add that new criteria to the website. Is that true or false?
If there's new criteria, yes.
Okay. So that all happens, let's say, the next day. Let's say it's small. You get it done on the 20th.
Well, wait, why did you go from the 8th to the 20th? And if we have the report and we have an open meeting on the 8th?
Because they're not giving us an open meeting on the 8th.
Yeah, it's the general.
19th.
Yeah,
No.
November 8th is
No,
our
they're
general
not,
session.
Kim. They're not giving us an open meeting on the 8th. That's,
We have a study session.
A study session is
scheduled,
open.
but the question is, are we getting the report to spend some time with, or are we actually having the discussion? That's what I'm not
All
clear
right.
on.
My understanding is you ask to get the report ahead of time. And that's what I said, I'll do, I'll get you the report. We're not meeting, and I think we talked about this. You're gonna have the report, you're gonna have a chance to read it, go through it, think about some questions, that when we come on the 19th, you can have some prepared questions.
see, they're
Well,
not giving
that's where I had a different understanding. I thought on the 8th, we'd get the report, not ideally, but we'd get the morning of, and then we'd have a discussion. Because what we're really coming up with are, we're identifying if there's any profile requirements that we missed. And we're also designing interview questions with the help of your input. Those two things, I was assuming were both going to happen on the 8th.
Again, it was my understanding that you wanted the report ahead of time.
Yes.
So you could process it. So when we met on the 19th, you could bring your recommended interview questions in. That was the reason to get you ahead of time, because you didn't want to read it and have to do questions at the same time.
Okay, there's two components there. There's that, because both things have been said, and that's why it's confusing. But two things. One is, ideally, we would like the report beforehand because it makes us prepared to be able to do the work that we need to do that is mentioned on here, selecting the interviewing questions, determining the procedures, deciding on compensation package. The second part of that is this information, and unless it sounds like that information is not as, I don't want to use the word, but I'll use it, important on the profile on our advertisement. Those, finding out what our community wants and what our stakeholders wants and putting those into interview questions so we can determine if the candidate in front of us actually has those qualities. Mm. That's the important part of it. Mm. And therefore, that's why I think it was also mentioned that it could end up being over a 3-hour meeting, and that's why it may not be good to attach that to another, like a study session. It really has the importance of being a standalone meeting, having our full attention.
That's your most important meeting out of this process,
and that's what I heard. So that's why I think it was mentioned, no, that wouldn't work on the 8th, then we'll just get the report on the 8th. I think that what, and I'll just say it sounds like that profile that's put on the advertising is probably fairly generic. And when people read it that are going to apply, they're going to think that, oh, that's me, that's me, that's me. And they're going to apply no matter what that says, because they want to be a superintendent in Scottsdale. The real key vital information is what's determined on that day, because those are the interview questions. That's really getting that community input, right. And so that we can figure out when we're sitting in front of the individual if they possess those qualities, right, that our community wants.
Right.
Does that make sense?
It does.
Okay, so that's where I think that we're at. That sounds like we do need a separate standalone meeting, because this is going to be vitally important. That whatever date we end up on, the 19th is vitally important. It's not as important, well, two things, coming back up. I do think our community does want to have a say, even if it's not viewed as the end-all in that profile that we put out there. I could be completely wrong.
Well, like you said, sorry.
But I could be wrong. But I have been hearing from the community that they want to have input at every single step.
And let me jump to that piece.
Even if the research doesn't back it up.
Yeah.
So it's whether we decide to go with the professional and the research behind it, that we choose not to do that in making that advertisement, and then we could stick to this timeline. Or we choose to say, no, we do, if we do, yeah. I'm just speaking for myself, believe that it is important to have that information, that it's included in the advertisement. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
I think we can update, as I understand it, we can update the advertisement. Whoever's applying to Scottsdale isn't going to be applying, like you said, I think they're somewhat generic, bullet points of this is what we're looking for. If they're applying to our district, they're going to, I would hope, do a minimal amount of research. For what our community is like, they should be familiarizing themselves as well. Mm-hmm. Board Member Kirby.
So, to that point, if I'm a candidate and I'm doing a minimal amount of research, I start probably with Google. Mm-hmm. What do you think a candidate is possibly going to conclude about what Scottsdale Unified is looking for from looking at the past 12 months of Google? Okay, which is really, I'm going to agree with Board Member Beckham here. The community wants to define who their superintendent is. We're really not giving them that opportunity because, let me finish, because we're coming up with a generic profile today that's going to be, every superintendent candidate's going to look at it and say, yep, that's me. They go do the Google search, like, yeah, I don't really know what they're looking for based upon all of this that's happened in the papers, but I'm a K-12 superintendent. It's the meetings on the week of the 22nd that then aren't reported out publicly until the 19th that really defines what this community is looking for in a superintendent.
Okay.
And I just...
But you're going to get a report ahead of time? It's going to be made public?
It's not about me. What I'm trying to say, it's about the community.
Right.
And they're not getting their say in this until the 22nd.
Let me jump.
And then it doesn't get folded into the profile until November 19th. And then the applications close less than 4 weeks after that.
Can I jump ahead and tell you another piece that's in our proposal that obviously you either forgot about or wasn't brought out? We recommend that when the candidates are here, those same groups that we met with, there be a subgroup. So let me use teachers as an example. About 8 to 10 teachers that are representative of your teachers. Same thing with students, same thing with principals, same thing with community. They're going to have an opportunity to meet the candidates. And we tell them, you're not interviewing, only the board as a selected body can do that. But you're doing two things. You're selling yourself in this school district to them, because it's two-way decision making. And then they have a form to fill out that's basically 2 questions. Here's what we liked about the candidate. Here's some concerns we had. They're going to put that in a envelope. They're going to seal it to give it to a contact person. When you're in your deliberations, you then open and read those. So they do have meaningful input into your decision, keeping you in full control of it. And that's where the real piece comes in. Telling us what they think is important. We want to know what they think. We want to know everything we can about your district. But the specific input to you when you're contemplating that decision is where they get their say.
Okay, can I ask one other thing? Is it possible on November 8th that the report that comes to the board can be a public document? So that any candidate who's possibly looking at the community feedback
Yeah, we recommend that it be
can request that document.
Yeah, in fact, we direct the candidates to that on our website. Here's the stakeholder report. Take a look at it.
So that then gives them a good 6 weeks before the applications close to see here's what the board was looking for, here's what the community's looking for, and try
they're
to
usually the same.
Usually the same, that they try to triangulate them. Yeah. Okay. That helps. That's important to know.
Board Member Beckham.
And I just want to add one thing, because I keep on saying community, but I want our, because I think this is such a, we have educators in this district that I really want to hear from too. And I kept on, when I heard community back, I thought, oh, I hope no one's thinking that we're not including our educators at this district, because I'm really interested in hearing what they are looking for in a superintendent.
Sure.
Because they're the ones who are going to be working for them all day long. I'm not. So, and I know we all agree with that. We really do want to hear from our.
I tell you, when we do those reports, when we do the stakeholder meetings, the students, they tell it like it is. And when we hear from the students, we get a pretty clear picture, because adults will dance around the issues. Students will just hit them head on.
That's true. I'm not excluding them either.
And when you provide, to Member Beckham's point, when you provide the report, do you say, here's what the employee group, the feedback from the employee group?
Teachers, not identified by name, but here's
Right.
what the teachers responded to the 4 questions. Here's what the students responded to the 4 questions. Here's what the classified responded to the 4 questions. Here's the community
Gotcha.
response.
That's important.
So you're able to sort those things out of who's saying what.
Yeah, and I'm asking, I think we know who's going to say what. It's really the candidates that I personally, I hope there's transparency to the candidates.
When we're talking to candidates and they're trying to determine whether they're going to apply or not to do that, we suggest you could go take a look at the stakeholder report and read the issues section. Question number 3, what are the issues here? And that helps them decide if their skill set is going to match what you're looking for or not. And then we have, as we said, the criteria. They're going to write to each of those criteria why they believe they're a good match. And that's where we begin our sorting process. And you're right. We've got people that apply for every job we have open.
Right, whether they're.
You know, that's our goal. You know, we're going to get in and take a look and determine the relative merits and bring in the best to you.
Board Member Hartman.
Okay, I have a different question, but I'm comfortable with this conversation. Okay. So I'm interested in understanding a little bit more about the application close date. You had mentioned we're in the ideal time. You had mentioned 75% of the applications come in the last couple of days. You suggested December 17th. What makes that day, like what makes that timing important? And if they all come in the last 3 days, is it just a function of when you?
It's not so much of them getting the application at the last 3 days, but it's at the time of the year when they're making the decision if they're going to stay where they are, or if they're going to look someplace else.
Exactly, that's what I'm trying to get to.
Yeah.
But so why about 12/17? I mean, how'd you pick that date?
It's just before break, so we can get them in. We'll have enough time to do our vetting process. I mean, that's the most of what we do. That vetting process is the most time-consuming thing we do.
So it's the vetting process that requires the time. The applications, if you called it 12/5 or 12/17, it doesn't matter?
Yeah, it does matter because it's all electronic. So we only close on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday, because candidates are sometimes having trouble with the electronic system or have some questions. If they call and leave a voicemail message, we can get back to them the next day. If we close on a weekend or a holiday, it's going to sit in the voicemail for 3-4 days.
Okay. So help me understand 12/17. Why is that? How did you pick that date versus
The 21st, which is a Friday.
12/10? I mean, you're not going to do it later because it's the holidays. So
Yeah.
I'm just trying to understand. Are you?
I think what we did when we looked at that is that's almost 3 months of the fact that it's open until they get their application materials in.
And that's, I mean, but, so tell me from a best practice standpoint. I mean, from my experience, you post a position and, you know, anyway, it's 4 to 8 weeks. But it does matter on the time you do it, which the reason why we're doing it right now is because we know principal candidates like to make the decision in the fall because by the time they get to February, March, they're signing contracts.
Right.
So they're going to apply or not. We're going to get the richest pool of candidates.
With this timing.
Yeah, so that's what I'm trying to understand. So we're doing the right thing at the right time is what I'm hearing.
Yes.
Okay, so what I'm trying to understand, why 12/17 versus 12/10? We're doing the right thing at the right time right now.
Just have to pick a date.
Okay.
You know, and that was the date that got picked. You've got almost 3 months of people knowing about it being open, going through the advertising process, making a determination if they're going to put their application in or not. They'll be calling and talking to people, and as usually, all our good candidates will be doing extensive research on you.
And so does that happen do they really need 90 days or do they need 60 days? They kind of know. I mean, we need the time to get the community input, which we're saying we can get that locked in by November 8th. So they will have had at that point from basically when you publish the announcement of vacancy, right?
Right.
As well as the initial profile, right? That's happening on, I guess the profile 9/27 will see a draft and the vacancy on 10/9. So at that point, they've got 60 days to have seen it, right?
Yeah. And maybe part of the confusion is talking about the finished profile versus getting the announcement out there.
Yeah,
Because once it goes on our website, people will be looking at that and say, that's an interesting one. I'm going to start doing some research on that district and decide if I'm going to apply or not.
Which that will all be public on November 9th or 8th, whichever date that was, the 8th.
The report.
Right. So there's no confusion about that. I'm just trying to understand the optimal close date. You said just pick one. Well, if it's, once you have that close date, then you start the vetting, or are you vetting along the way?
With our electronic application, we're looking at individuals along the way, but we don't start our calling until after that close date. And that's when we go back and read everything that's been turned in and begin comparing them to what you said you're looking for. And we begin winnowing some people out and we're getting in depth with some others.
Okay. And how much time does that take?
From when it closes to having a short list?
Yes.
Preferable time is 3 weeks, minimum.
And short list, meaning you narrowed it down based on the applications as well as the background checks and reference checks and things like that.
Can we finalize the calendar?
I'm going to say I'm still a little confused exactly where we are. I mean, I'm trying to understand the ideal. I mean, what I'm hearing too, just like Board Member Hartman, we are in the prime time of the candidate pool. That's important for our community to understand as well. I think we had a lot of questions of why now, why now? It's because we are in the prime candidate time.
Right.
So find that great calendar that gives us that best pool. That's what's important. Board Member Kirby.
So that's the question I have. Not to get too theoretical, but are we, because we're in the prime calendar time to get existing superintendents who for some reason or another want to leave their district. Either they're not happy or the district's not happy with them.
No, professional advancement.
Well, then there was recently a district in Texas that scored in the past 3 weeks a stellar superintendent candidate to start next year, which stunned me that it was a year in advance. So I guess and I don't know if you saw that, and you may have been involved.
That is an anomaly.
But it was heralded as just an amazing candidate that this district got. And so I guess I'm going to, not that we can do anything about it now, because we purposefully waited to do it right now, but I'm just going to challenge the board that I think we're just repeating old, tired processes. We're just doing the same thing that districts always do when they're trying to go out and get a superintendent candidate, as opposed to thinking out of the box, and as this Texas district did, and go out and get a stellar candidate and put together very thoughtful recruiting and do it a year in advance. That's all I'm going to say. I mean, I'm not going to push back on this because we're in it, but I don't know that we're going to get anything different than we've gotten in the past because we're doing it the same way we've always done it.
Well, could you clarify, other than having a larger or longer timeline, what is different that this Texas district did, other than?
That's a good question. I don't know.
You know, so they may have gone through the same exercise, but this candidate said, I'm not available until, you know, they may have started earlier. I mean.
And I think that's just it. It's to start earlier.
Yeah. But some people think we're starting early now, so I mean,
because we're doing the same
way
thing the always done.
Board Member Hartman, you had a comment or question?
I do. So I can't speak to what this Texas process was, but something that we're definitely doing differently, and I think better now, is we are starting earlier. And we did two things in the past 4 years that was important. We changed the timeline of the contract. We shifted it from 12/31 to 6/30 so that we could get better candidates. So that was our first good move. And then last time, because we didn't have any alternatives, we didn't even start this process
until January.
So we're saying we're starting this now, but you have to remember, we actually started, the PO process took us 3 months to get that done. So I do think this process is better, and I am hearing that we're doing the right thing at the right time. Maybe there's other things we could have done, but at least the timeline we've got in our favor. So here's my question. So we said we were going to close the applications on December 17th. 60 days, if we're posting 9/27, we're getting community public feedback posted by November 8th. Could we, instead of closing on the 17th, why don't we close on November 27th? I mean, that would give 60 full days, of which districts are hiring incredible superintendents right now already. Anyone who's incredible wants to focus on it. They're going to get it done. 60 days is more than enough time for an application. We throw in the Thanksgiving Day holiday, you know, in case so we'll give them an extra day there. So why don't we just do it 3 weeks earlier on the 27th? I'm not hearing there's any benefit by dragging it out longer. And then what that does, from this board's perspective, is it allows you then the 3 weeks to present to this board your findings, because you're going to be starting over with a new board in January. And I think our input is very important for you to collect and for us to see that short list. And so I would like to see that, if we can make that timeline work. And if we can make that work.
We can.
So can we review these dates again?
Yeah.
Go
this
through
is a
list,
template to
'cause
work off of.
That's why I need clarification.
That's what, yeah, because
So the only new date I threw out there, we're using the same timeline we've discussed and agreed to, is instead of closing it on December 17th, I'm backing it up because that will be our last week before the holiday. So I'm backing it up 3 weeks to the week of November 26th. Call it the 27th, whatever the ideal day is that week, because that will then give you 3 weeks to provide, to do the research and the short list for this board before we.
What, are you changing the third meeting?
I am changing, all I'm changing is the
Okay.
close date. And
Yeah.
then, yes, and I'm changing the third meeting, because I would say then let's do that the week of December 17th.
I don't know that that's doable for us
Well, it's
because of schedules.
Well, it's, okay.
Wait,
Well,
I-
required 3
wait,
weeks.
wait. December 17th is just closing date of application. You'd like to move that date up to November 27th.
It's been
So the
recommended.
question that comes to my mind is, that leaves a week, 8 days of, I mean,
Between
unless
the-
we move the November 19th date up, that leaves a very tiny window of that finalizing, because we all said, and Board Member Beck made an excellent point, is November 19th is a very critical meeting as we discuss the oral report of the stakeholders, as we discuss the interview questions, the interview procedure, that's a critical meeting. I see a very short window, and I just pointing it out to make sure everyone's comfortable with that, a short window of that critical meeting to the time the closing date for applications is 8 days. I just want to make sure that that's a
So I
comfort
think-
level.
Yeah, I think it's a question for Mr. Jacobson, because he's going to walk away. He's coming with a template of questions. We will have had at this point 2 weeks to look over all the community data, which will have been public. So we'll use that 3 hours to discuss
Candidates.
candidate. Well, no. The November 19th is to discuss the.
No, the last board meeting, December 10th. And I picked that to go on to your work session, because that's the one that you need to have the time for us to present candidates to you, for you to read information, to see the videos, make a decision who you want to invite in for, and we'll also at that time be meeting with the chairs of your stakeholder groups to coordinate their meetings with the candidates. I mean, that's the critical one.
All right, so I think we're talking about 2 different things.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Okay, so the November 19th meeting, all of that information is not dependent or doesn't affect the closing date.
No.
So, to answer your question, it doesn't affect it at all.
Because I saw November 19th as the day after that the profile, I think was the term used, gets updated with community input and board input.
No,
No.
no.
Yeah.
The November 8th
How would
is
it
when-
If
be,
there's-
how
yeah,
would
if there's
have
any
that have
changes,
happened
that's when it's gonna
earlier?
happen.
Yeah,
November
however,
8th.
it's November
November
8th is when it
8th
gets,
is today.
where he
Because-
said as candidates call in
Okay.
and say,
Okay,
am I a great fit?
So-
Mr. Jacobson says.
so you're going to
look at
move
that.
basically what is currently listed here as November 19th. You want to move it to the 8th. We're going to forego.
No, the report is
The
available
report,
on
how would
the
you
8th.
update the profile until we have that
The report's
discussion?
public.
The report's public.
It's going to go on the website, the
Right,
report.
but we
the whole
still have
report,
to
the whole
discuss it
report.
on the 19th, don't we?
Right, and we will, but that information, remember, is to determine interview procedures, interview questions, compensation package, and none of that is put on, is updated to the profile of the application. None of that
So-
information is.
So when does the board have an opportunity to, I mean,
What?
okay, you're saying on the 8th, that oral report of the stakeholder meetings is up there. When do we as a board
Discuss
get
what the
to
stakeholder-
discuss that profile and it become a part of the update of the
We
new
would have
application?
preferred, we would have preferred it to have been sooner to November 8th, but we've been told that there is no availability.
And what
Okay.
got me happy with, got me comfortable, was that on November 8th, all of the community input, not just what the board vets, but all of the community input on November 8th gets put on the website, and anyone who's interested in the job gets to see what the community says in their own words. To me, that's a more transparent process than bringing it to the board and having us wordsmith it and upload it. I really like taking that November 8th and just, in its raw form, putting it with the profile.
Yeah.
What happens also then, because I hadn't thought of that, is, that and I need some more time to think about it, but by, what you're doing is you are closing out a process with the existing people that started it, but you're not making any, you're making a few decisions, but you're making, when you say select finalists, you're talking about 7 or 8 possible people, correct?
To be presented to you, for you to winnow it down to probably 3 or 4.
Okay, so okay, I thought that we were picking those 7 or 8 people on December 17th, as
We
you have
can.
set it
No,
up.
no,
We
no.
still can, but
That-
which
that all that
ideally what you're saying is
a
you whittle it
timeline for
to 2.
the application to cease on our
So
website.
this is what I'm saying. You have a group of people here who have, made the criteria, put in the time, energy, thought, and all of a sudden then you're pushing all that information we've been gathering to a new group of people that are brand new, and I won't speak for you, but that first 6 months of being on the board, you're kind of like a deer in headlights too, because you're learning things, you're learning a lot. So, not that they can't do it, because I know that they can, but I can see a point of bringing it, you're not making any decisions in that meeting, from what the decision, you're reviewing candidates, you're selecting finalists, which could be 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7, depending on, if you have 7 great people, I would think
Roll them all.
we would have 7
them all.
people
Yeah.
be
Yep.
interviewed.
Push them all.
And after you've seen them, after you've heard our reports from them, after we've shared that with you, I've had boards say, yeah, we want to meet them all.
Yeah. And then
I
we
mean,
are
but-
then giving that to the new board.
More often
right?
than not, after they've seen that, they say, yeah, I want to see these 3 or these 4.
And that's when, really, that heavy lifting, those decisions, the interviews, the stakeholder interviews, that board then will be getting all of that information to make a decision.
Mhm.
So that's what you're talking about,
That's what
right?
I'm trying to achieve.
Okay. And I need a minute or two to think about, does that make sense or not? Or does it make sense to have that new board be making those decisions on the December 17th meeting?
There is, again, I think we need to
There is no meeting
focus
on
on
December 17th.
the specific meetings we have. There is no meeting on December 17th.
Well,
That's where I think we're getting ourselves very
recommended.
confused.
I'm just saying
is-
the
She's
week of the
recommending
yours-
17th, we'll have
okay.
a special session.
Okay,
Board
that's
Member
what I'm
Hartman
trying
is
to get at.
recommending that we move that meeting up to December so that this existing board
That's what I'm
makes
trying to
those
understand.
decisions, or the decision is, no, you know what, we push it back to the week of January 10th or whatever it is with the new board. And so maybe we need to look at the pros and cons of that, because I have not thought of that.
So,
Board Member
pros?
Hartman?
here's one big pro.
Okay?
One, one, I think that what you're describing is a fair process and uses everybody's experience and commitment and knowledge and in this process, which is in the best interest of our students. Two, in the worst case scenario, we don't have a good short list of candidates by that December 17th week, well then that next board knows it needs to step on the gas and really figure this out, because it didn't work out so well when we started January last time. But it is possible, so it's a backup plan to what hopefully is we're going to, because we're in the right place at the right time, doing the right thing, we're gonna get the richest set of candidates. So the best case scenario is we get 3, 4, 5, 6, right?
I have another pro.
Board Member Kirby?
So I have another pro I want to add, but I want to start it off with a question, if I may. And I think this is important for candidates and the community to know. And it's questions for Dr. Creekgard. Do you have intentions of applying for this position?
No.
Okay. However, if we don't find the candidates, would you be willing to stay on?
I'd be willing to talk about that, yes.
Okay.
I would not leave this district alone, leaderless.
Okay, thank you. So the pro, thank you for that.
That's a backup.
So the pro is that
Yes.
if our final 3 or 5 or whatever is a weak group, then this board knows we need to start negotiating with Dr. Creekgard. Because if we wait until after we're through the whole process and then decide, oh gosh, we don't really have anyone here, well, Dr. Creekgard has all the leverage at that point. And for us, I hope this is a business transaction. I don't mean to just to cast any ill will towards you, but it's about being able to hand off with the most flexibility, if that makes any sense.
And can I add to that?
Board Member Hartman?
Because what that would allow the next board to do is then say, is the step on the gas process even a viable solution? It hasn't worked out so well in the past. So you now have 3 options: a short list of great candidates, a discussion with Dr. Creekgard, or the choice to do an accelerated second round search, which is, as I tell my kids, choices are good.
Right. And the conversations with Dr. Creekgard can go ahead and start, and we'll know what his price tag is. And the next board will be able to weigh that cost benefit that Kim's talking about. Well, we have this person for this amount. Do we step on the gas and try to get a higher qualified person? Or, you know what I'm saying? It is flexibility.
By step on the gas, you're talking second round of interviews, but technically, we would have gotten the best candidates during this first round because November or December through February is the prime time for looking for candidates.
Right. I'm
So
saying
unless all of a sudden there's...
That's a worst
you know,
case scenario.
Right, the superintendent ferry drops down, there's not going to, you know, we should be getting the best candidates the first time around.
Because we're doing the right thing at the right time,
Right.
that's what we're hearing, so.
I could see a scenario where we have, you know, this board selects 3 candidates. Let's just make up this number, 3. And they're okay. They're not, you know, they're okay. We're not super excited. And then we're saying, okay, well, this is who we've selected. And we can I don't know, bring Dr. Creekguard into play. And then the next board can decide, Dr. Creekguard's in play for a price, and then we have these other 3 candidates. And now we've got 4 candidates. As opposed to going through the whole process and then saying, oh, we don't like any of them, Dr. Creekguard, will you know, and then, yes, I will, but it will cost you this. I know you are. Don't mean to put any ideas in your head.
So are there any cons to pushing it forward? Pushing it forward? Well, pushing it, using
bringing it forward.
Board Member Hartman's recommendation and having the proposed January meeting in December with this board.
So you're saying you want to move up the January 10th meeting?
That's what
In
Board
December.
Member Hartman is proposing. That's what they were just talking about, the pros of doing that. That was discussion. Now, are there any cons?
The con is what the community is going to think in terms of trying to accelerate this process too quickly. And the con is, even though we will still have 3 board members following through or returning in January, there'll be some people who will feel that the 2 coming on, to be quite blunt, should be involved in this process, because then we will be hiring a superintendent that was hired by a board that all 5 members of the board that superintendent will be serving. Am I saying this right? The superintendent that we hire will not have been hired by all 5 of the board members that are sitting there.
But no, they would be. So what happens is, and this is why, that I think
Okay,
that
so
we
I
need to understand.
the demarcation
Right.
line of when
What
the-
happens is in December, this board would select finalists. There still has been no interviews of those
Okay.
finalists. So there's been absolutely no decision on those individuals.
Not until you've interviewed them.
And that, right, and so that's not going to take place until the month of January. Correct?
What's going to
So if the meeting would be moved up to December 17th, the week of, then, and there was a selection of finalists over Christmas period, a week, not during Christmas, obviously, you would be contacting them, and you would be setting up in the first couple of weeks or in the month of January, the interviews that would be taking place with those individuals. Correct?
I'm not sure I followed that.
So if the week of December 17th, instead of, you have that governing board meeting that is scheduled on this piece of paper, your timeline for January 10th, that would be moved up to the 17th, okay? Does that make sense? So this board would be making the decision on the finalists, whether it's 3 through 7. Then everyone's going on vacation. You're going to be doing your work, which is doing that final vetting of those.
No, our final vetting is done before that board meeting.
Right. Oh, okay, no additional
We
vetting on
need
that. Okay.
3 weeks before that.
So you've got your vetting done, so you're going to be contacting them and saying, guess what? Congratulations, you were selected as a finalist. We need to schedule interviews. And that would be happening the month of January.
No.
Correct?
Yeah.
And then the new board would be making the final decision with the input of the stakeholders, because they are also invited to those interviews. Is that correct? Dr. Jacobson, is that correct that stakeholders are also typically invited to those interviews
Yes,
after the finalists?
yes.
So do you see where that, no,
I just want to make clear on that.
yeah. I can see that there's going to be some people that would say, well, that selection of the finalists should be left up to the new board. So that's something that we would have to determine as a board, which is the greater benefit to our students. Is it to have this board make that decision, or to have that new board? Knowing full well, the new board is going to be making any final decisions. Does that sound about right?
Good summation.
So, questions or comments on that point?
You know, I would like to maybe have a 5-minute break so that I can think about it, to think of what that next step would look like. Is that possible?
Sure.
That's a break?
How about we, before we do that, I mean, truly get these dates connected to the meetings and activities that we know need to be done. And then that way we can really process it. Because that's where I think it's just, it's been hard. We've been throwing around dates. We didn't even have meetings. We don't even know what's possible. So I think that would be important, that we understand we're still looking at the stakeholder group meetings, the October 20th.
Yes.
And I'm just going to kind of reiterate, I think that is important. We have all agreed that stakeholder input is valuable and needed, and to try and rush that after fall, all the reasons we've kind of listed.
No one's
to give our
challenging the
community, that's
22nd.
good.
We can move on.
So, like that. Then, I guess where I get a little concerned, because there's been different things stated, is the amount of time. McPherson and Jacobson needs 2 weeks, roughly, between that time. I'm just looking at the calendar here and understanding, because we don't want to rush their process.
November 8th, he's already agreed to that.
Yeah, so that's been agreed to.
So
So November 8th, the
that's-
stakeholder report would come out.
Okay.
And it's
public.
public.
Okay, but again, I'm trying to clarify, October 8th, the stakeholder report, November 8th, the stakeholder report will come out, but there is not a meeting expected. Is that correct? So the November 9th or 19th, sorry, the things that we said we're going to do on November 19th, we're not moving them up to November 8th.
No, the state.
Okay, that was one thing that was kind of sticking. So just making a report process or available, and then we still have the 19th. Then we have, from that time, we as a board discussed the report on the stakeholder meetings. We discussed select interview questions, determine interview procedure. Then there is, my understanding, Board Member Hartman said, closing the window between that meeting on our November 19th to when the closing date for applications. That's
The week of
That's
week
week
26. 27.
November 27th.
Week of.
So instead of December 17th, November 27th, right? Okay. And then, looking at November 27th, then we're looking at December 6th,
No, the week of December 17th
the week of December 17th.
to have the meeting that's
To-
described here.
That's
That's
for January
that's on
10th.
January 10th.
Got
Would
it.
be the week of that.
Week of December 17th. Okay, so Mr. Jacobson, I guess one of my questions to you is, that timeline, I mean, you're going to be able to have those meetings, have those.
The only thing is
things ready?
dependent on our consultant's schedule, but as far as process, it works. As long as we've got
Okay.
3 weeks from closing to meeting, presenting candidates. And that's a
Okay.
critical time for us.
All right.
We have to have that amount of time.
Okay. Okay, so Board Member Kravitz?
I just want to get your professional opinion. Are we hamstringing ourselves or by moving up our closing date from December 17th to 27th? Do you feel that, there's been a discussion about, people are applying earlier. What is your experience?
I put, as a template, I put what I thought was the best calendar for you. All right, and then we say this is your process, you own it. But in our opinion, as far as, if you know a superstar that you want us to go recruit, because I know exactly what happened there, or if you want a deep, rich pool of candidates, this process works. And they knew who they were gonna hire, and they went after that person, they got them hired. If you know who you're gonna hire and you want us to go recruit them, we can do that.
Okay, so that can be part of this process if somebody came to light.
Well, in fact, we want people to give us names of potential candidates because we reach out to them and recruit them, and we never say where we got their name from. Just that their name was given to us.
So I have another question. Thank you for asking. Your professional opinion, you teach this, you've lived it for the last 27 years. Have you ever encountered something similar to this where you've had the board switching in between your process?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh,
and
yes. I mean, anytime you work
how
for
does it
elected
work?
board, that happens all the time.
It happens all the time.
Yeah.
So how do you see the timing of this? Do you see a problem in moving it up, or is there what do you see as a pro or con of moving it up to December so this board does this last meeting that's on here, or is it better to keep it with the new board?
I think it's important that the person is hired by their immediate board they're going to work for. So the suggestion having the new board. I also knew your elections are what, November 2nd? 6th. That your new board members become involved in the process once they're elected. They're not making any decisions, but they're privy to the discussions to do that.
Well, which they would be, because all discussions are out in the open anyway, so I think that's good. But so, is there any benefit or any negative consequence to moving this up and having this third meeting in which we choose the finalists?
I don't know that there's any benefit to it. My recommendation is that the newly elected board choose who the finalists are. That they take that step and do that.
Great, thank you.
Do we have any other questions or comments, or would we like to take a short recess?
I still need my break.
Okay. All right, so we will take a 5-minute recess.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, time is 3:41 and we have reconvened. Board Member Kirby had a question?
Could just take a breath from the last conversation for a second. Decide on compensation package. I think I heard you say that your firm will bring a recommended salary range, I'm assuming?
We'll bring an array of what the current superintendents in your area, similar sized districts are making.
And is that, so do you just look at Arizona, or do you look Southwest? When you say your area, what does that mean?
We can do it any dimension that you want. We just did Jackson, Mississippi, and we did urban districts in the south. So if you want us to do Southwest, we can do that.
I would like that because I know what Arizona superintendents make. And is it possible that you send that to us earlier than the 19th so that we can, and it can even be the 17th of November, so that we can look at it, digest it?
Sure.
Because this district often gets criticized by its own constituents for paying the superintendent too much.
Every district gets criticized for that.
And so, and I'll be honest, I've always wondered, I'm somewhat of a, you get what you, I don't want to say that, but
No, back up.
I would like to know, are we paying too much? I mean, I would like to know, is there another side to that coin? And let's take the opportunity back to, let's not keep doing the same thing. Let's take the opportunity, and if we need to deviate here, then let's make it a thoughtful decision. Give us a few days to look at your data, so that when we make that critical decision on the 19th, it's not we're hearing it for the first time, knee-jerk reaction.
We can do that. We want you to be competitive, and that's what we want. And I had a board member once tell me, they pay peanuts, you get monkeys.
That's good.
That's good, I like that.
Dr. Creekard.
This monkey has a question. And those reports, so that it clarifies, is not just base salary, but the total package is as much as you're aware of.
We have trouble getting that. Basically, we work off the salary component, and our advice to any board is when you get a new superintendent, go and take a look at what's already in the contract. Strip out all the extras that have been negotiated over the years, get a basic contract for a fair price. If your new placement is working well for you, they can negotiate those things back in over time. You know, if you have a 401k, or if you have car allowances, or You know, I don't, every part of the country is different as what they put in there. So we'll take a look at that.
Might need to do some of our own research on that end of it then, on the benefit side. Maybe in HR we could get some of that information.
Well, no, so I'm not hearing then that report's going to be that helpful. If it's not an all-in compensation.
We can't, unless you've got an organization in this state that gathers that information, we can't get it.
There is.
Is there?
Okay. Is there? Because I'm recalling past conversations with past superintendents where that's exactly what we were told is we can call each district and say, you know, what is your salary, and you can get that. And then when it boils down to all the extras in the compensation package, then it becomes a muddled mess.
Right.
And so I don't recall being told that, oh, there's an organization that puts it all together.
Independent business managers of different districts have gathered over the years compensation packages of like size districts to that business manager's district, and we qualify in that area.
Oh, good.
If that information is available, we can get it, but otherwise it's basically just salary.
I can help you with it.
Okay, thanks.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Okay. Board Member Beckham.
I'm going to go back because I do have another question. That's fairly quick. So, Dr. Jacobson, this process of once the finalists are selected, how long is that interviewing process? Knowing that you could have 3 to 5 candidates, is it a 4-week process? Do you mush it into 1 week, or is it longer because you're bringing candidates possibly from out of state and you've got to work in schedules?
What I'd like to have you do to finish this, as we get there, is pick a week that you can put on your calendar for interviews. We have 1 candidate per day. They start off with a quick tour of your community and walk through a school or two. We recommend the spouse, significant other be involved during the day because it's a 2-person decision typically to do that. Then the candidate will go meet with the stakeholder groups after the quick tour. And again, teachers, students, principals, community group, those, and they'll have about 45 minutes to an hour to meet the candidate, ask them questions, have the candidate ask them questions. There then is typically an informal interview around a meal with the board, usually an evening meal. Candidates understand that this is part of the process, that they're being interviewed socially as we're doing that, and you want to see your candidate in a social setting. It's also an opportunity where they're going to be able to share information with you that you can't ask them. And so I'll be telling you about my 4 sons, my 3 grandkids, things that you can't ask me that I want you to know about it. And then go to the formal interview to do that, to have your formal interview.
And the formal interview is the next day?
No, it's that evening.
After your informal meal?
Now, that being said, with the size of your district, we may have to go a day and a half, to make sure that we get all the stakeholder groups involved.
So for each candidate, it's either a day or a day and a half?
Yeah, typically a day.
Okay.
Starts at 8 in the morning, goes till about 9 at night.
That's good. That'll give the board a good look at their endurance.
Absolutely. And I've had board members say that's a grueling day.
It is.
The response is, if you can't handle that, you can't handle being a superintendent.
Right.
Because they're grueling days.
Should have an interview Sunday evening too.
Yeah. Did I answer your question?
Then what happens?
After you have interviewed let me use 4 as the typical number because that's normal. Interview your 4 candidates, then you need to schedule a board meeting, executive session to discuss each one of them. Go through each of them and talk about what you saw as their strengths and weaknesses. Do a ranking, see if we have a clear number 1 choice of that. Read the input from the stakeholder groups. Once you have who you're going to offer the position to, call and make the offer. Once we know that we have acceptance, we call the other individuals, thank them on your behalf, and let them know that somebody else was hired. Everybody that applies that didn't get an interview gets a personalized letter on your behalf from us also.
Board Member Kirby?
So in my experience, it's not as simple as call and make the offer and they accept or reject. It's usually, in my experience, it's a 1 to 2 week negotiation.
Could be.
And so that's important for you to know.
Yeah.
And for Board Member Kravitz to know. Who does that negotiation? Would that be your firm being the go-between? Or is that coming at an extra cost, or is that part of the package?
It depends how complicated it gets, but let me suggest, we usually suggest you use your legal counsel because we're not attorneys.
Okay.
That's our preference, is to do that.
Particularly in Arizona, where there's unique laws. Okay.
And you're right, there's some give and take, but you offer the position and you have conditional acceptance until the contract's negotiated.
Okay, but that has been historically at least a 1 week process.
It can be.
Yeah.
So you're really looking at, you're not going to do it the first week you get back from school.
Week of the 21st.
Would be the interviews.
That's what we're recommending.
Okay, which would have to be because our board members don't even get installed until
The 10th.
the 10th of January.
Let's see, they will actually, let's see, January 10th,
So
yes, that's correct.
that would make it January 21st, so you're into just to pick up on a point that was made, if none of these happen to be, you're looking at first or second week in February at the latest, kind of knowing, okay, you got to make a decision whether you're going to reopen it or not. Okay.
And I'm going to make a statement. You're a very attractive school district. You're going to get a deep and rich pool. I don't think you're going to get to the end and say, we haven't found our superintendent.
And I don't either.
If you do, if you get down to the end and say, we don't want you to offer the contract just to have somebody here.
Right.
We want to have the right person. And so we're with you until you've successfully hired. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think you're going to find the right one.
Can we go over the timeline?
Well, is somebody going to make a recommendation? Motion.
Well, there's further questions or comments? I think we did right before the break, we kind of summarized the timeline that we're talking about. The decision was, I mean, yes, this is an action item. Board feels ready to move to this particular action item. Or did you want to do them all at once or one at a time following discussion? That's what I kind of assumed.
Approval of the calendar.
Right.
And if we do have action items, I would recommend that you do 6 weeks on AASA and 6 weeks on Ed Week. And I gave you those prices.
So that'll be, that's approval of advertising venues, correct?
Yeah.
So right now, we could just take a motion for action item 4AI, vote to approve timelines.
Could you clarify what is the difference between the timelines and the target dates for selection process?
Those
The
are
timeline is the whole
specifics
calendar
under the
right.
timeline. You listen separately in case you wanted to break those down separately.
Okay.
If you approve the whole timeline as has been discussed, which I would imagine would be part of the motion, so that we're clear.
Right.
And maybe need to write them down so everybody can see and agree.
Yeah,
Dr.
that's a great
Sackos?
suggestion.
Yeah,
Scribe.
because that's right, right before the,
Get my scribe on?
Markers.
Should we get this done?
I tried to take notes.
Relieve me.
I'm back
I need
just
a
in
break.
case she falters.
All right.
Okay, so we have, let's start with,
We just follow this order.
well, beginning October is not a date.
We said,
Well, I have announcement of vacancy around October 9th, is what I wrote in my notes there.
Profile approval.
And I put down, you said you could wordsmith by the 28th for this Thursday or October 4th meeting, so it could be done October 5th if we chose it to be approved on the 4th. If it's approved on the 28th, it could be done on the 29th.
Say by October.
Let's give them a week.
Well, we want to maximize it, so I would say, I mean,
Well, wait a minute, because I hadn't heard that the board would be approving the announcement of vacancy. Is that what you're saying just now?
You had suggested that it needs to be approved because you wordsmith it, and then it
I need to have the selection criteria, which is the last agenda item that
So
I have.
that's
on
decided today?
Yes.
Got it,
Well,
okay.
We're
Actually-
voting on Thursday.
Yeah. We're going to come up with them tonight. I'm going to wordsmith them, get them back to you for approval.
by the 27th is really what you said before.
Oh, by Thursday, okay, okay,
Do we have enough
all right,
Today's Tuesday.
For Thursday?
Yeah.
Yeah.
okay. Okay, so that's, so 9/27. On 9/27, we're approving the announcement of vacancy.
At least the
Correct.
criteria,
Based-
yeah.
Okay,
And is
Put
that-
board approval, announcement of, yeah, just
Okay.
so that we're clear. Thank you.
very pretty handwriting.
Okay.
Okay.
And that, does that include advertise, is that one and the same with advertise the position, correct? Okay.
No, let's, if I may, just so that we have clarity, can we put October 5th to advertise the position? What's his name? Mr. Jacobson. If we approve the announcement of vacancy on the 27th, which is 2 days from now,
Yeah.
could your firm have it advertised by October the 5th?
It will be. It'll be on our website. The only
Okay, I
thing
just
that-
want to make sure that you
yeah,
can turn it
and-
around.
And we can get it on the application because that's electronic. The only thing that takes a little longer is the actual paper announcement of vacancy that describes your, but the critical piece is the selection criteria.
I understand, but can you, beyond just your website, can we, if we approve
Yes.
later, Ed Week and AASA,
Yes.
can you get all of that done by October the 5th?
I believe so.
So let's just, by October, no later than
No
October
later
5th.
than, yeah.
And knowing that it will happen,
It depends on their publication date, but I think that's far enough out that we can.
and they have online stuff too, so, okay. Perfect. And then week of October 22nd are stakeholder group meetings. October
22nd.
week up.
Week of.
Week of.
Group meetings.
15 to 20.
Okay, November 8th. Report,
Stakeholder meeting report.
stakeholder meeting report sent to board and posted publicly. I have another question while she's writing. Would you, knowing that your website will have quite a bit of information about the Scottsdale position, we also have a website. Would you recommend that we just post a link over to your website so that we don't have conflicting information?
You can do that, or if you want just a dedicated one to the superintendent search on your website, some districts do that also.
We need to decide that.
Do you?
Yes.
Okay, so then that report, in my expectation is it's not only posted on
Right.
your website, but it's also on our
And it's
website.
typically, we cross-link so they can get to either one of them.
Okay. Thank you. Can we put comp package on November 17th?
For
what?
November 19th.
The comp, to get it to the board, the comp package to the board.
Oh.
Could we put November 17th, which I don't know what day of the month is that?
That's a Saturday.
Okay, November 16th, compensation report to the board. And, I mean, that can be public too, as far as I'm concerned. Any downside on making that a public document?
No.
Okay.
It's public information.
Okay, so put it, so, and on websites. Then November 19th is governing board meeting, basically as stated on this piece of paper. Is that right?
Yes?
Okay, now this is where okay. Just put as stated, or as recommended, as
November
recommended.
19th, yes.
Okay, and you need to-
All right. Then the week of November 26th. Closing date for applications.
Closing date for applications?
Yes.
Right.
We need a hard date.
Well, and you,
Well,
right, but you need to pick
it's
it,
up to
because
you
you
to
said
tell
you
us.
do Tuesday, you don't do a Fridays or Monday, or you.
Yeah, it has to be
I had November 27th.
Right, but we don't know.
I had
the actual
November
day of the
27th written
What was
down.
the
Monday
ideal
through
date?
Thursday.
Monday through Thursday.
so
And no
let's see what
holidays.
that is.
Yeah, but you need 3 weeks to process, so it's either has to be the 27th or the 28th. Do you have a preference?
Excuse me.
So say November
Did we move
27th.
the January meeting?
No, we haven't gotten there
We
yet.
haven't gotten there yet.
Okay, because
But we're looking at
that's
doing
plenty
it.
of time if we hold the January meeting where it is.
So
Yeah, right.
Melissa,
But we're looking at
it.
moving it up.
instead of
so-
the week of, just say 11/27.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because that's and that's a Tuesday.
Okay.
And that's going to be subject to my other 2 consultants' schedule, actually, my other 3 consultants' schedule,
Okay.
that date.
Okay.
The closing date of the application?
Not the 3rd board meeting.
The third board meeting.
Which we're getting to right now,
Yeah.
which is for right now, should we say, we should look at our calendars, but it would be December 18th would be 3 weeks. December 9th, anything after that's probably fine, but it's probably 18th or 19th, the latest. So say the 18th and you'll confirm? Does that work on your calendar?
Well, did you still have a question about when the selection of finalists should occur?
No, I asked that. So this is just to put it up as a
Okay.
recommendation.
Yeah.
It's being brought by Board Member Hurt. That's all I'm
So are we doing week of
Well, I
December
think-
17th?
I think we need to say, for right now, December 18th.
I've got it written down.
Or
I
no,
got
it's not
18th or
yet.
19th written down.
Yeah, it's December 18th.
Tuesday the 18th.
Just
Subject
so you know, I
to-
would be available the 17th also, so I don't know if that's.
17th is just too soon for.
Yeah, Mr.
Mr.
Jacobson,
Jacobson.
from the date of the closing date of applications
Okay.
to this third meeting,
We want 3 weeks.
3 weeks, okay. There we go. So right to this.
All right, and that is as recommended,
Or
so.
are we going with the 17th or 18th, sorry?
18th.
18th. 12, 18.
12, yeah.
And then as recommended, so there's steps in here. And then the week of January 21st, interviews.
We can move that up if we're going to be meeting there. We could meet the week of the 10th. Oh, excuse me, that's December.
Oh, we have a,
Yeah,
that's, I
the
think, just too
two
soon.
new board members are,
In
will be
schools,
in
just
on
that
January
wasn't.
10th,
Yeah.
so that's, to
We-
move
yeah,
that up that week was
I
really possible.
looked at the wrong calendar.
Yeah.
We could do the week of the 14th.
We do have a regular board meeting the 15th, I don't know.
Why don't,
It's
why
Let's leave it
different
where it
one
is
way or
then.
the other.
Or just have Sandra call the two new board members and see if they want to. Personally, I think you give yourself more time, it gives you more flexibility. So I would, if I were going to be on the board, I'd want it the week of the 14th, just to have more time. But maybe Sandra can call.
It's scheduled to be the week of the 21st,
You mean-
so you
It's a
just
whole
shorten
other
their
week.
time.
No, I mean to have more time to make a decision.
So if we're having a regular
board
board
to make
meeting
a
on
decision.
January 15th, which they will have on their calendar, so why don't we just hold it
Yeah.
on January 15th?
You do an exec session before.
Yeah. Oh, no,
you guys.
No, the interviews are not just a meeting, it's.
No, it's a full week.
It's a full week of activities.
If you have 4 people, then it's a whole week. So the 14th really doesn't work because we have a board meeting. And that board meeting is really important.
We have a board meeting on the 15th.
Yeah.
So we can't do
And
it.
it's
Let's
that
leave
first-
it on the 21st.
Let's, the
21st,
21st
yes,
is good.
yeah.
It still works out. You're still
You know
beginning
that
of
Monday's
February.
a holiday that week.
Yeah, Martin Luther King.
The 21st.
The 21st?
Yeah, are you in session?
No.
No. So we'd have to do the week of the 22nd.
Yeah, that Tuesday.
Yeah.
When's,
Tuesday, 22nd through 20th.
Voices? Voices and the Martin Luther King and the dinner?
It doesn't.
Michelle, the
we got it?
MLK dinner and voices
Yeah.
will be prior to.
Yeah, I agree we don't want to move it down.
Week prior to it, yeah, we're all
Yeah,
right.
so we're good.
Okay.
You're good?
Do you guys like
And
this
then-
in particular?
Does that have sticky on it?
Well, the only, I think there's just one kind
Back of
of
the podium.
date after that, if we can just stick it on the bottom, because otherwise, well, we can have 2, but it appears then we have a formal meeting after the interviews. Dr. Jacobson, when would that formal meeting be after the interviews?
That's up to you.
I think that would be determined
The
depending
next
on how
week.
many candidates we have and
Right.
timeline and
But you don't attend that meeting,
availabilities.
those meetings?
If you want us here, we can be. We can be here. I encourage you to have it as soon as possible after your last interview.
Okay.
Don't
So the
delay.
following week.
For a couple of reasons. Refreshing your mind, and they may be looking for other jobs.
Exactly.
Okay.
That's something that we ask them when they're doing it.
So
For
then we're,
January
what's that date?
28th? That's a Monday.
Yep.
Would be
Board.
a board
Exec
meeting?
session.
Exec session.
The week of, yeah.
A week of or just? that
Well, I
night?
mean, everyone depends on availability at that time, and we
Well.
won't know until,
So
but
I
I
would put
agree
the
that as soon as those
28th and
interviews
let
are
them
done, you
See
make,
if the new board members, as soon as we get a calendar out, to have that date.
We could, all right, so January exec session for selection?
Is when?
We got January 28th or January.
No, January 28th.
it's processing. Okay, so we have our summary. Thank you, Dr. Sakos.
You can put, maybe, if we're done, I think you can put it back up here,
Yeah, I
easier to
think
see.
that's better, easier to see.
If we don't need a second page.
Oh, we're gonna start using
So-
this.
What?
We're gonna start using this for the criteria.
Just
Okay.
for
Just
now,
to vote.
vote on the calendar.
They're gonna vote on the
I'm
calendar
sorry.
first.
This
It may
is,
not pass.
yes, so this is basically the timeline and target dates for selection process,
Okay.
all in one motion. And we have these dates on the table. Do I have a motion?
I'll motion to accept the timeline and target dates as proposed and discussed.
Do I have a second?
I will second.
Thank you, Board Member Beckham. Thank you, Board Member Kirby. All in favor?
Kirby, you not me.
I'm sorry, Hartman. Board Member Hartman, for your motion. Hartman for the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Board Member Kravitz, I'm sorry. I couldn't tell.
I didn't-
Okay, sorry.
I didn't
All right,
vote.
all opposed.
Nay.
All right, motion passes 4-1.
With the caveat, consultant schedule, meet that date. We'll look for another if it can, that
right.
same week, but I can't speak for their schedules.
So we need to block out that whole week until we hear from you, right?
How soon do you think you can just get back to us, Mr. Jacobson?
Probably by tomorrow.
Okay, great.
Next that week. 18th.
All right. And Mr. Jacobson, I think you have
Our next,
All right.
Our
Do we need a
next goal.
motion on the
For the
advertising venues?
Have we reviewed them thoroughly enough? Or do we have any additional questions or comments
Can you
first?
recap, you went
Yes.
through
Yeah.
them fairly quickly, the costs and the duration?
American
And I-
Association of School Administrators website, which is the second most popular after our website, is $409 for 30 days, $649 for 60 days, and $879 for 90 days. I would recommend you run it for 60 days, October, November.
That makes sense.
Double ASA?
Yeah.
Can you put the calendar back? I'm sorry, I just,
No, that's quite aware.
We're closing.
I just want to make sure that it fits within what we just
Yeah.
approved.
I think I did the math, and if we advertise the 5th and we close on the 27th, that's almost 8 weeks? Is that 8 weeks?
Say again?
No, if we advertise the position on the 5th
Yeah.
to the 27th, is possibly 7 to 8 weeks, not 6.
Yeah, that is it.
And I would hate to, I just want to make sure that the money is spent on the latter portion to make sure it goes all the way through the 27th.
Right.
And then back it up 6 weeks, or we go 7 weeks if that's what it is.
I don't know that 7 weeks is an option.
Is an option.
I
Well,
think
then
it's
let's just make
6.
sure we back it up from the 27th, because you said most applications come in at the end. I don't want it off those two
I agree.
websites the week
Listen,
before.
Tell me again, what was the I got 409 for 30 days, then there was 60 days. What was that last?
879, but that, you're going to be wasting money there because you're going to be closed.
Yeah, but it's either 6 weeks or 8 weeks. We don't have a 7-week option.
So do 8.
No.
No, it's 12 weeks.
Yeah, it's 30 days.
It's 8
60
weeks.
days and
Oh, so we
90
need
days.
60.
Well, can I clarify? The applications come in at the end, but it's because that just,
You want to
they're
get the
looking
notification out
immediately.
as soon as
You wanna-
possible.
Yeah,
Oh, they're looking immediately, it's
Yeah.
not
Oh,
at
yeah.
that last week?
Yeah.
yeah, they're
Oh,
looking now.
okay.
So let's just do the 8-week, what he
Yeah.
recommended.
That makes sense.
I'd also recommend 30 days on top school jobs ed week. That's $495.
490.
$495.
Do they
And why-
have-
And why only 30 versus 60 on that one?
We don't get as big a return on that one when we did our survey, and you know, some of the guys should do it. We used to do print ads in there because that was the newspaper everybody read, but that's run $2,500 to $3,000, and so we think the online is just as good.
Okay. And would you do October or November on that?
That one, there's a time specific for them to tell us. I would post it as soon as possible, our soonest publication date.
Same thing?
So,
Did you have another?
is it just those two? Are those the only two?
Latino.
Association of Latino Superintendents and Administrators. That's $150 flat rate for 6 weeks.
Oh, that's a good deal.
And what has your success been on that? I mean, it sounds like we should do it, but.
If you're actively recruiting minorities, that's the place to go.
All right, good.
Yeah.
I think that would make sense.
And we will be actively recruiting no matter what, so.
Can you just repeat all the places we're advertising and where and how much?
AASA, $649 for 60 days. Ed Week, $495 for 30 days. The Association of Latino Administrators and Superintendents, $150 for 6 weeks. And that was just a flat.
So I move to approve the advertising venues for the cost and duration as just stated.
Okay. Board Member Kirby, do you have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Board Member Hartman, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes 5-0. All right, so that's our advertising venues. Good. And I think we move to selection criteria, correct?
I believe you all have paper to write on. Let me describe the process. I'm going to ask you to write down everything that you can think of that you want your new superintendent to possess. What's the perfect superintendent going to look like?
I wish I'd.
After you've written those down, we're going to go around and put them up on the flip chart. and do that. After we've done that, we're going to go and do some combining of like ones. So we're not judging as we put them up. We'll do that later. And then we're going to do a force ranking, and that's where we'll come up with the criteria that I will wordsmith. When I wordsmith, this is the first attempt. So, you know, if you have changes, feel free to do that. I'd never get it right the first time. So if you can write on that sheet of paper everything that you want your new superintendent to be like, what are the characteristics, skills, qualities you want in that person?
What's the statement?
And we need just number them sequentially. 1, 2, 3, 4, and just capture the thoughts. You don't know how much we need. Yeah.
Approve the advertising venues and costs as stated.
No, costs and duration, as stated.
I know I was missing something. Thanks.
Are you going to coordinate the stakeholders, or should I just go to Sandra, or you work with her?
Let's make Sandra the point person for that, and I'll work with her. Is that okay?
That's fine. I'm just, one of my other consultants will be contacting her to work on the schedule.
Yeah, she'll be the best with the date.
Yes, I use
Thank you.
this. I don't use. I like a mouse or
Mouse for your minute.
It's just.
I do too. I saw that. Do you have a card?
I gave you my card.
Did you?
Could I
have another one.
would it be possible to have somebody print out the superintendent posting that we last approved back in April of 18? Just because, to refresh my memory of what was important to us back then.
It would be on our website, wouldn't it?
I'll ask Nancy if she has it.
Yeah.
I think I, okay,
That's a great idea.
thank you.
Nancy's back.
I have it, but I can't pull it up.
She's getting it.
We're waiting on a document. We went through this exercise not too long, about 6 months ago, and they're gonna print out what we said 6 months ago so we can refresh our memory.
We could start this, though. and then
Yeah, we
get
could
that.
start it, for sure.
Sure.
Next part, I'm going to just have you go around one at a time, give me the first one that happens to be on your list. We're going to put it up here. Some of you are going to have some of the same ones, so if something says something, just cross it off. We're going to keep going around until we get everything up here to do that. So give me your first one.
Academic instructional leader who is student-focused.
Combining. Business-minded.
Committed to the district's strategic plan.
Data savvy. If you want us to explain any of these more, let us know. If we need to explain these anymore, please let us know.
When we do some combining, we'll come back.
Okay.
To these.
And this is kind of redundant, but a strong leader with conviction for making student-focused decisions. That's kind of long, sorry.
Say it again.
Leader,
We have student-focused.
yeah, student-focused, a leader focused on, I said strong leader with conviction for making student-focused decisions.
So strong
But-
leaders, student-focused.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah,
number
it's the
one.
same.
It's the same as
Exactly, it's the
one.
same as one.
Just put a star.
So you could add, yeah, add to that.
Add a tick.
And then if, I guess I'll go with innovative then. I'll go with the next one on my list.
Innovative.
Since it was already covered. Sandy stole mine.
Can you, before we go round two, can you remind us what questions we're going to be answering in this exercise? Is this the only question? Or are there other, like, are we going to answer those 4 questions? What are our issues?
No,
No.
no,
This is the only question we're asking.
for now.
Okay.
But we're going
Thank
to come
you.
back and visit each of these, and then I'm going to have you do some force ranking. Number 2, your next one.
I have, so I don't know if this is more of an attribute or criteria, but I wrote down diplomatic yet assertive. That's more of an attribute.
Your next one.
Interdisciplinary.
Interdisciplinary.
Is that a good word?
What does that mean? I don't have it. I'm waiting.
Okay. Excellent communicator.
She just stole mine.
Do you need another one?
Oh, no, I'll use this one. Someone that brings integrity to the position. Or integrity, basically.
Highly ethical. Can we add the word ethical to integrity too? Can we add the word
Add
ethical
ethical.
/ ethical?
Integrity / ethical.
Your next one.
I want to clarify what you said, Pam. What was your first thing that you said? The strategic plan.
Committed to the strategic.
So does that include everything?
Yes.
Okay, so I can skip all of that. I just want
Yes.
to make sure.
That's what I
Blah,
meant.
blah, blah. Okay. Blah, blah, blah. Experience with mature district in a competitive school choice environment.
Will you repeat that again? Sandy?
Sure. Experience with the mature district in a competitive school choice environment.
Next one.
Leads by example.
I'm reserving all of mine until I get that document.
Okay.
So that's two, Megan.
I'm just going to call this out, even though it's embedded in our strategic plan, but it's alignment with core values, student-focused, responsive, growth mindset, and humble.
Alignment with core values.
The core values. Well, I list them. So student-focused. I'm sure you know them.
Know them all by heart.
I think this is just a test right now. What order they listed in?
Doesn't matter. Just,
Dot, dot, dot.
yeah, there's just four.
We know.
No, responsive. Growth mindset. This is a problem that we don't all know them, by the way, so someone who's really committed to the strategic plan.
Was one. Oh, well, that's why I asked Pam if that's what she was referring to.
Yeah, I know, but
You want it out.
an organization that doesn't know them, doesn't practice them.
I know, student focused, responsive.
Humble.
Growth minded.
Oh, yeah.
Humble.
Humble.
This may sound like a no-brainer, but an educator, in the deepest sense of the word.
Your next one.
Experience with the diverse student population.
Student population?
Yes. Thank you.
Your next one.
Empirical evidence of past success.
Good one. So empirical SAT.
So all that we've been able to find is the interim superintendent. That was the potentially, so I'm in companies from.
Where are we?
I think that's
That was
the
the last
one, I
posting.
think that is the last
Yeah, that's the
posting.
last
Yeah,
one.
that's the one.
April-ish.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, I believe it's dated, yes, April 20th of this year.
Yes, this is the one. Thank you.
You want to add one?
Thank you, Nancy.
Or I'll keep going.
Keep going and let me.
All right, large unified district superintendent experience.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is our last one.
Thanks.
I don't.
Sandy?
Oh, I have.
We'll let Board Member Kirby take over since she's been holding out.
Let's keep going around.
No, keep going around.
I'm
Okay,
I'm
you
out.
passed?
Yeah.
Okay, has led a district with a diverse, vocal parent community population with divergent viewpoints.
Diverse, divergent. How many different ways can you say that?
Have I said that diverse? I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I'll share.
Self-edit. I didn't self-edit.
I'll share mine because I think it sums yours up very
Okay,
easily.
there you go right ahead. I'm wordy.
Strong backbone.
Oh, that's, okay, just go with that.
And you might want to attach this to the excellent communicator, but I want somebody who's also committed to communication of the district.
Committed to communication.
And that is different from just being an excellent communicator.
Yeah. Has led a district with diverse.
Sorry, I just divergent and diverse in the same sentence.
Parent population.
That's good.
Parent.
Cindy, can you give
I
her
will.
yours again? Let a district with diverse.
Oh, forget it. How did I say it?
Student population.
No, that was, yeah.
Yeah.
It was more pair population.
Where are we?
We're with me. I have a couple that we may have already, so, do we have experience in a data-driven culture?
Well, that was my data
Yeah,
savvy.
data savvy, we might
But we
want
can
to
expand on that.
expand that a little bit.
Let's
What we mean
put
by
it up
data
here.
savvy.
Let's put it up here because we're going to come back and talk through those.
Yeah.
And get the meaning
And
out
get
of
the
them.
depth.
I'd like him a copy of this so that.
Well, and then the next one, if I could.
Say that again, though, wait.
I just, experience with a data-driven culture.
Okay.
And then,
Let's keep going around until we get them all up there. Does anybody have any more?
I do. I have academic turnaround experience.
Good one.
good one, good job.
Got one more.
Committed to excellent in instructional efficacy,
Committed to
excellence,
oh, excellence.
instructional efficacy,
Very nice printing.
Let's see.
Number 23.
Committed,
Dan, it's some more markers, blue preferably.
Here you go. There's one.
Oh, here's blue.
Go ahead.
We're good.
committed to and demonstrated experience in a culture of accountability.
Good.
Next.
200 million plus bond experience, $200 million plus bond experience.
Next. You
Got it.
pass?
Yeah.
I'll pass for a mask.
Pass.
Oh, no, I just had it and then I lost it. So let me go to Pam.
I pass, I'm done.
Respect it.
I have one last one, community collaborator.
Are there any others?
No, I'm trying to think, and I thought I had it in my head, and then it went away.
I do have one more. We might want to put $200 million plus budget experience, although that maybe is encompassed in a large unified district.
200 million
Yeah,
plus.
that's bond.
Uh-huh.
It's and budget, put and budget experience
Slash
maybe.
budget.
I think we need to put it because
And
I would too.
Mr. Jacobs, can I ask you, because I'm very glad Board Member Kirby brought this up. Has this been provided to you at all or reviewed yet?
No, I haven't done it.
Because I think it is
Yeah.
a valuable tool as a starting point.
well, so I'd like to, what's that? Mr. Jacobson?
I guess so. No, I need the blue pen.
Oh, I've got one more, actually.
There you go.
Go ahead. I'd like to say leadership development experience.
Oh, good one.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I have another one.
Okay.
I'm gonna put it up because I want to hear what the rest of the board says. prior experience as a principal.
I feel that fits in, I mean, when I said an educator, I mean,
Well,
that's
what we
truly
talk
what
about.
that means, is that you have experienced
But you could have
education
been a
at every
teacher.
level.
That's what we talk about.
Yeah.
On this one over on excellent communicator, I'd like to just highlight the fact that one of the ones that I put down is can listen.
Next part of the process, I'm going to read through all of these.
Oh.
And if you think there's one or two or three up there that could be combined because they're like enough, we can combine them. But the rules of the combination, anybody can recommend the combination, but the two people that put them up there have to agree that they're different, that they're enough alike to put in there. And then after that, we're going to do some ranking. Our goal is not to combine everything, but if there's some that are alike, we'll do that. So take 5 Post-it notes and pass them around. Academic, instructive leader that is student focused. 2, business minded. 3, committed to district strategic plan. 4, data savvy. 5, innovative. 6, diplomatic yet assertive. 7, interdisciplinary. 8, excellent communicator. 9, integrity and ethical. 10, experience with. Experience with mature district in a competitive school choice environment. Leads by example. 12, alignment with the core values, and I take it those are the core values. 13, educator. 14, experience with diverse student population. 15, empirical evidence of past success. 16, large unified district superintendent experience. 17, led district with diverse divergent parent population. 18, strong backbone. 19, committed to communication. 20, experience in data-driven culture. 21, academic turnaround experience. 22, committed to excellence in educational efficacy. 23, committed to and demonstrate experience in a collective, in a culture of accountability. 24, 200 million plus bond and budget experience. 25, community collaborator. 26, leadership development experience. 27, prior experience as principal. So any that you think should be combined.
Can I add one that
Yeah.
maybe combines with strong backbone but it's very different, I guess, willing to take risks.
Okay, gotta get my scribe up here. You want it with strong backbone?
Well, I think risk taker and innovator, maybe.
Maybe put that over innovator?
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
Innovative, risk taker.
That's actually where I had it.
No, you'll see why she.
Growth-minded, willing to take risks, and innovative.
Any that can be combined.
I think you can combine 8 and 19, which is excellent communicator and committed to communication.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, and I take silence for consent that you agree if you put it up there.
Oh, sorry.
So
Yeah,
19.
they're very different.
They're different?
They're very different. Excellent communicator is the individual themselves is able to communicate their ideas, but committed to communication is, I was thinking of it from a district standpoint and how we handle our communication at the district.
So I was thinking you wouldn't lose any of the words, we just put them together, excellent communicator and committed to communication. Unless,
Oh, okay.
3 and 12.
because if you only can vote on
You okay with
so
it?
many-
Right.
Sorry.
Can I question or comment on that? Just saying, I want someone who's committed to communication. Who's going to say, no, I'm not committed to
I was
communication?
going to say no to
No,
any
no,
of these.
3 and 19 do go
But
together.
excellent
3 and
communicator
12.
is actually the
Oh.
3 and, excuse me.
quality, right?
Right, exactly.
That's why I thought they could kind of go together.
It's up to us
3
to
and
ask the
12,
questions
committed to
find
district
out
strategic plan and
what they
The
have.
alignment with core.
alignment with core values.
Yes, that's together.
Which ones?
Yeah.
3 and 12.
3 and 12.
You might be able to handle.
Once again, wouldn't want to lose words, but.
They will be fleshed out a little bit. Any others? Are we good?
Well, we kind of talked about the idea of combining educator, 13, with 27 prior
yeah.
experience principal, because I guess it's easy to combine that. It's true in educators. Someone
You
who's
agree?
been in the classroom, who's been a principal, who's worked in district administration, but also I'd like to add that layer of just an educator at their core. I'm fine combining.
I wrote the principal one.
Yeah.
There could be individuals who have been educators and administrators and have never been a principal and can claim I'm an educator. So I think it's highly important that principal is called out.
I agree with that. I'm saying it can be combined with the idea that educator who has served in the classroom as a principal and in district administration.
All three.
All three.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying, combine it.
Might be hard to get. I mean, I was thinking and or.
No.
Okay.
Any others?
But you're just leaving educator. This is a big deal to me. I'm not going to agree.
I'm going to wordsmith.
No, I'm
That's-
saying you
said
can
now-
you've agreed,
now
and it
that
didn't
now
get
says-
captured up there.
Oh,
That now says, where's it, educator that has prior experience as a principal. I'll expand upon that, but that's what that one now reads.
What about 20 and 4? Can those be combined?
Data savvy, and 20 is experience with data-driven culture.
I'd be fine with that.
yeah.
I disagree. Because you can be data savvy. You could know how to work your way around an Excel spreadsheet, but you have no idea how to drive that through a culture.
I'm saying data savvy and experience with the data-driven culture. I'm just saying put them both
Okay,
together.
as long as we don't lose.
Yeah, I just
We're not going to lose anything off this sheet.
Yeah.
Because I'd like to understand how they understand. Right.
What was that, 20?
Finding us with actually doing.
Any others?
I have a question for our staff. When we say data-driven culture, I think that, right, as all these conversations we've had over the past few years, our board understands that means using data to drive instruction and improve instruction. Is that a given to anyone reading that?
Yes.
Okay, I just kind of wanted to make sure of that.
To the candidates, it won't be.
To the candidates,
to the candidates.
it's a given, okay, good. Ms. Claire.
What about,
Hard to believe, Barbara, we're not unique.
can we, what about 18 and 6?
18 is strong backbone, and 6 is diplomatic yet assertive.
Sure.
You agree?
I agree.
Sure.
Any others?
Our number 4, they're very different because you're talking about student population and parent, but could you 14 and 17 be experienced with diverse student and parent populations?
So
Instead of having two
14
separate ones?
and 17 be combined?
Well, the 17 is more a challenging parents, where the one about students has to do with socioeconomic and cultural differences.
Well, then we need to say that under 17, because that's not what because it's when it says diverse and then it says diverse
To me,
student.
that goes to the strong backbone, so you could put 17 and 18 together. That's
Okay,
what
so
So where did we put 18?
But it was 6, 18,
6,
and
18,
17.
and 17.
Any others?
So one comment, I think I know where Board Member Beckham was going with empirical evidence of past success, but to me, that's an interview approach. That whatever the 5 we land on, I'd like to see empirical evidence
Sure.
of that. So it kind of just
I
goes
just
without
don't,
saying.
want it to, I wanted somebody who actually has past successes.
So do I, but of
Proven.
all the 5
Of all
things, I want to
those,
see of all
yes.
of them.
And again, we're not going to lose anything off here.
So maybe we could put a star by that, because what we're saying is whatever 5 we see, we want to see evidence of it.
All right, we done combining?
Can someone explain, or put interdisciplinary? Who said
It
that?
means
Oh, yeah.
that you have knowledge of more than like one subject, so.
Allison said that.
So what it is that you just aren't data savvy. He or she would have financial knowledge, would have data knowledge, and then you know how to combine them. So really, it kind of goes along with the business-minded, although they're different, but also it can be used, it's used in education today, because you can, if you're really interdisciplinary in how you think and your knowledge, you can start to look at how kids are learning and in what areas, and you can start combining them and collaborating together. Does that make sense? Did I explain it okay? Okay.
I have a question.
10 and 16. I'm sorry.
Go ahead, 10 and 16.
10 and 16.
So I had a question about 16. I don't know who put that. Define large.
So that was mine, and for me, I'd say 15,000 or greater.
So 16 and 10 together?
Yeah.
Yes?
And I have to tell you, when you said that, my mind went even bigger than what we are,
Same.
so that they would have experience with a much bigger, even though they might be becoming smaller, because even though we are now at 23,000, we live like we're a much bigger district.
Can we put 15 with 10 and 16?
I would make it bigger than that.
I would go
Maybe
20.
I'd be fine with 20.
Can we put 15 with 10 and 16?
Yeah, because experience isn't enough. You need to be successful.
We're talking about defining 16.
Well, yeah.
You're
I was
defining
moving around.
large.
Defining large.
And number 16 is
So
what
it's
we're
20,000 students is what we're saying.
Yeah.
My only
So no.
concern was that there could be somebody up and coming who has demonstrated a lot of it, but isn't coming from a 20,000 person district. But large experience is important. So that's, I don't know if you have advice on that, if we limit ourselves too much, or is that really what we should be shooting for?
If that comes out, one of the top ones, what I would be doing is experience with a like size or larger district.
Like size or large.
Yeah, that's how I would be phrasing it, instead of trying to empirically give you a number.
Right.
So
I
we're
think-
trying to combine 16
Right,
and
the point in 16, you move to 10, experience with mature district of like size or larger
Yeah.
Yep.
in a competitive school choice environment.
Yeah.
You've
And
combined
then,
the two.
do you want to add 15 because you want them to have been successful?
No, we're saying applies to.
Oh, we already talked
Applies
about
to
it.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
14 might apply to those though. So large, unified, mature district.
Just diverse.
Diverse population.
Yeah, throw 14 up there.
If you combine all those.
10, 16, and 14
Right.
all go together.
Okay?
And then that competitive, got it. Okay, that's good.
Do you all have 5 Post-it notes?
We have what?
5.
Oh, you were supposed to
We're
choose
supposed to take
5.
5?
Oh, you're
Oh,
supposed to take 5.
All right, I'm going to read through them as they're combined, and I'm going to ask you to pick out what you believe are the 5 most important. Put that number on the Post-it note in the middle and circle it. Don't rank them, just pick out the 5 most important. So we've got academic instructional leader that's student-focused, business-minded, committed to this district strategic plan in alignment with core values. Data savvy, and you only need the first number if they're combined, the smallest number. Data savvy and experience with data-driven culture. Innovative risk taker. 6, diplomatic yet assertive, that includes backbone. 7, interdisciplinary, knowledge of all things. 8, excellent communicator, and that includes 19, which is committed to communication. 9, integrity and ethical. 10, experience with the mature district in a competitive school choice environment. Includes experience with a diverse student population and a large unified district superintendent experience. 11, leads by example. 13, educator and experience as a principal. 15, empirical evidence of past success. 21, academic turnaround expert. 22, committed to excellent instructional efficacy. 23, committed to demonstrated experience in the culture of accountability. 24, a 200 million plus budget and bond experience. 25, community collaborator. 26, leadership development experience. So pick out your 5 most important.
Can we add 24 to that 10, 16, 14?
You ran out of yellow stickies, and you're just trying to squeeze it in there.
Well,
You agree?
you have to define it anyhow. You can't just say large without
Do you
describing.
agree?
I'm fine. I didn't put that up there. That wasn't me.
Okay, that now includes big budget.
Oh, I agree,
And I have one more question.
Yep.
Did we agree that 15 is just table stakes? So
Yes.
15 is in, we don't need to vote on
Table
15.
stakes. 15's got to demonstrate that to even play.
Yes, I like the way you said that, because that's.
Got your 5?
I do.
On those 5, pick out what you believe is the most important one. Put a 1 in the upper left-hand column. Just do that. Just what you think is the most important one, put a 1 on it.
Oh, wait. Hold on, I didn't do it yet.
Oh, wait, oh, I didn't do that.
I'm picking the numbers, right?
Yeah, of the 5 that you picked, which one of those is the most important to you?
Oh, okay, I don't know. Give me a minute.
Do you want us to rank all 5 or just
No,
the first one?
just the first one.
I have a question.
Yep.
Is 1 part of 3 and 12? Because 1 is, I mean, if I recall when we met with.
I would agree.
I would agree 1 is part of 3 and 12.
Oh, thank you.
That makes life a lot easier. I like that.
Oh, so 1 and 3 we're saying is the
1
same?
and 3, I mean,
And
that was
12.
part of the.
It's all student
Okay,
focused.
that's good. So now I have an extra.
All right, of the 4 remaining, put a 5 on what you believe is the least, they're all important, but the least important of this group.
I didn't do it right.
5.
Okay, yeah, hold on, you have to give me a second.
I didn't do it
One,
right.
put a little 1 on the one that is your number, that is the number 1.
Yeah. And then put a 5 on the one that you think is least important.
We've already, okay, so I need to-
A 2 on the second most important.
Hang on. Oh,
2 on the second.
A 4 on the fourth important, and the remainder is 3. And then put them in order 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Everybody got them ranked?
What was that first one? What numbers were combined in that one? 1, 3, 4.
1, 3.
Okay,
Everybody got it done?
I think so.
No?
10 was that one with all of them?
I think so. A little fuzzy, but.
Good?
Yeah.
You still working on it?
I'm making sure.
All right, we're going to start at this end this time. Give me the number of your number 1, and then we'll do all the number 1s and all the 2s, all 3s, 4s, 5s, and see where we come up.
Number 1.
Okay, I'm going to put it by 3 because we moved 1 down.
Number 1 is my number 1.
it's number 3. We
What?
combined.
Oh, I thought we were choosing the least, the lowest number.
That's my same one. That's my number 1.
Okay, so
Same.
I was saying.
what made us?
Same.
Number 2,
Playing game show.
That's what made us great, ladies.
It's like the newlywed.
you're number 2.
13, sorry.
Number 10.
5.
2.
23.
Number 3.
6. 4.
4.
5.
4.
Number 4.
5.
8. 23. 23. 10.
Number 5.
22.
26. 10.
'em. They kind of go hand in hand.
They're all good up there.
combine
They're all good.
Well, 4 and 22. 4. Maybe I can put 22 with 4.
They're all good.
I think number 22 could be our number.
I put number 8.
Yeah, it could, right.
Just make really big, long statements. Capture it.
Yeah.
Get number 10. That is 3.
So your top 5 criteria to be wordsmith. Number 3 is unanimous. Number 1, committed to the district strategic plan, which includes academic, instructional leader, student focused, and academic attainment alignment with core values. Your number 2 is data savvy, data-driven decision making, I think it said. Number 3 is innovative risk taker. Number 4 is committed to demonstrated experience in the culture of accountability. And number 5 is experience with mature district in a competitive school climate that included large school superintendent experience, and it included experience with a diverse population and budget. So I'll get those wordsmith back to you. As they come back, you can't change the intent, but you sure can change the wording, you know, because this is a group decision of what you intended to say.
Would it be possible that in whatever gets initially posted, that you capture this empirical evidence
Sure.
that must be able to provide evidence
Yep.
of, da-da-da, and then that's fine, something like that?
In fact, we don't use that word, but as we do the criteria, they appear in the application, and we ask them to respond, give us your demonstrated,
Okay.
prove it.
Right.
Basically is what we say.
That's great.
Okay.
All right, so we got a calendar worked out, we've got criteria done, we've got stakeholder groups that we'll be working with to get who we're going to meet with.
So do we need an official vote on this criteria, or are
Thursday.
we? Thursday. Oh.
Right?
Well,
Do you want us
that's
to
fine.
take a vote on
You
That's,
don't
that's
need
why
to.
I asked
Okay.
the question.
And we don't need to.
Because it's
Because
listed here, I'm just
this
double
process
checking.
isn't done by majority decision, it's consensus
Okay.
process.
All
So
right.
we don't need to vote on
Then
it.
that's great. We do not need 4A3.
Any last questions? Any?
It says a selection criteria, it says vote to approve.
That's what I just verified. Apparently, we don't need to take a vote on that since it was decided by consensus.
Oh.
So I got,
I just
where's
wanna make
Michelle
sure
Marshall's
Michelle
still here, but
agrees with us.
I think we're all good.
This process allows for equal input from all participants,
Okay.
Okay.
especially when working on anything controversial.
A 3.
That's it.
So it's the ones that are, no, not.
Anything else you need from me this afternoon? I will be getting a calendar to you, working with Sandra, we'll get the calendar.
Board Member Hartman?
I do have a question for you. Because you are across the country and work with a lot of school districts, in our district, it does have a very active, vocal constituency. Based on your experience, does that impact the number and/or quality of the candidate that may find this interesting or not?
No. Here's especially when we finish the stakeholder report, that one that says issues, what are the issues here, if you could talk to them, we lead the candidates to that. We've got some candidates that'll look at that and say, I'm not touching that district. We've got others that'll say, boy, that's right up my line, that's my skill set. And that's what we want to have happen, so you get a good match. And as you talk about your public involvement and public interest, it's sure a lot better than dealing with apathy, because I've dealt with both sides. And people, when they're involved, they care about what's going on, and that's important.
Board Member Kirby?
I just want to thank you for your patience on the calendar timeline with
No
us.
problem.
Hopefully we made up some ground and how quickly
Yep.
we moved through this one. But thank you.
Yeah, you're the client. I'm here to do what you want me to. I'm going to advise you, as I did this afternoon, why we think it's the way to do it. But bottom line, it's your process. We're here to do the work for you.
Thank you.
You have a great afternoon. What's traffic like in Scottsdale on 5 o'clock?
Where are you headed? Depends on which way you're going.
I'm heading to the airport.
Oh,
Yeah.
Thanks a
Well,
lot.
you'll be okay. Just don't head out to Chandler. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
so moved.
Thank you, Board Member
Second.
Kravitz. Thank you, Board Member Kirby. All in favor? Aye. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you all.